That's the school.
And like the average setback is more than one that we was
A quick notice of this meeting of the zoning board of adjustment was sent by email to the Asbury Park Press and the Co-Star, our official newspapers, and was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. The roll call, Mr. Brazil?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Here.
Mr. Almeida?
Here.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mr. Rubin?
Here.
Ms. Hayner?
Here.
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Mr. Diorio, Mr. Ross are absent.
Ask that everyone please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 26th meeting.
Motion. Second.
Ms. Brazil?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Abstain.
Mr. Almeida?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Next is a resolution approving the application of William and Mary Ellen McFarland, 219 15th Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, that was last month's meeting. We approved construction of a front covered porch to replace an existing front covered porch and construction of a second floor balcony over the to-be-constructed front porch. And the only conditions of note, I think you said no enclosure or covering of the second story balcony absent further approval is on board. No enclosure of the replacement front porch absent further approval. And we also had here the testimony indicated that the applicants anticipate using the existing foundation for the improvements. However, per the specific testimony and discussion presented, if the site or construction circumstances dictate the use of a new foundation in this particular circumstances, no further requirement for them to return to the board. So if that is all acceptable, we can adopt that.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Brazil?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Abstain.
Mr. Almeida?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Next is a resolution approving the application of William Azraelian, 209 16th Avenue.
That was an approval to authorize a number of improvements to an existing single-family home. And it was, let's see, it was an addition, porch, and the conditions of note included basically that the shed shall be resided, the siding of the shed shall match the siding of the renovated home, no enclosure of that front porch absent further formal approval, air conditioning condenser located in a zoning compliant location, the inclusion of a note confirming that landscaping arborvitae shall be planted around the shed so as to minimize any adverse aesthetic appearance associated with that non-conforming front yard location, perpetually replacing the landscaping as necessary, confirmation that the existing fence in the northwest portion of the property shall be relocated so as to essentially be concurrent with the northwest property line. Existing outdoor shower shall be tied into the municipal sanitary sewer system if deemed necessary by the prevailing regulations and or our friend Ted, stormwater management contained on the site. And the only condition that I wanted to talk to you about is, I know there was discussion about them relocating the shed, and Tony, I remember you said something about siding and hiding the shed. I like when people rhyme, so I wrote it down. But, Joe Kosivi, the applicant's attorney said, applicant's engineer said, I think we had decided, but I don't think we had to relocate it any further back. I just couldn't remember, my notes were inconsistent, so.
They would leave that where it was. That's the siding it with trees up.
Okay, so we'll leave it, so we'll eliminate that, so we can adopt that as modified, if that's acceptable. But I do still like the rhyming, thank you. If we can accept that, adopt that as modified.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Okay, Ms. Brazil?
Yes.
Mr. Gray?
Abstain.
Mr. Mr. Almeida?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lubin?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes. That's it for all part of business?
Yes, it is.
Okay, we're going to be hearing 4 cases tonight. What we ask is that each applicant plan to budget their time for a maximum of 1 hour per presentation. If you need more than 1 hour, you're not limited to 1 hour. It's just that we'd like to get on with the next application, and you can come back at the end of the evening if we're not going past 10. If we do go past 10, then your case would be adjourned to the subsequent meeting for us to finish it. So we do try to keep within an hour, but if you can't do that, we would let you go over. We would expect you to yield to the next applicant to it, so we can try to get through all 4 cases tonight. Scheduling is very difficult, and we hate to see the 4th case get bumped off because the first 3 cases exceeded, that 1 hour time limit. So appreciate if you just respected that. And with that, the first case is Keith Kirsch at 211 3rd Avenue, in-ground pool.
Okay, as the applicant team comes forward, we'll just do a couple of preliminary procedural things. First up, is there anyone here who had any questions or comments or concerns regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received? Okay, the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order, so it would be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. We will swear in Ted Bianchi. Ted is our zoning officer and construction official. Ted, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide to the extent you provide in it will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you guide? Thank you. And we'll mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the development application package dated August 9th, 2024. And let's see. A2 is the Borough of Belmar application checklist. A3 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that's dated July 3rd, and is that July 4th or July 9th? 4th. Oh, look at me working July 4th. So we'll mark that as A3. A4 are the plans, swimming pool and variance plans prepared by Two River Engineering, AJ Garrido, 1 sheet dated August 9th, 2024. And I think that's it, April, correct?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. Why don't you just introduce yourselves and we'll swear you all in and get going.
Sure, I'm Keith Kirsch.
Jennifer Hirsch?
Okay. And Mr. Garrido, how are you? If you could just put your name, enter your appearance.
Sure. My name is AJ Garrido. I'm a principal engineer of Two River Engineering, located at 265 Route 34, Colsack, New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. I testified from this board many years ago, but throughout many boards throughout the state.
All right, so if all 3 of you could please raise your hands. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
All right, let the record reflect that all 3 witnesses have been sworn, and if you want to have a seat or if you want to do it, and can I just, Mr. Chairman, can I ask the applicants a couple of real quick questions to get the ball rolling?
Absolutely.
Just have a seat,
Oh, sure.
and Mr. and Mrs. Kirsch, are you the owners of the subject property?
Yes, we are.
And how long have you owned it, roughly?
Since March.
It's been a year and a half, I'd say.
Okay, 1.5 years, and my notes reflect that there's 2 dwelling units on the site, a front and a rear garage cottage?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, and Ted, I'm assuming that's a pre-existing non-conforming use? And so if I just ask you a couple real quick questions, then we can turn it over to you. Just with regard to the front dwelling, that's a single-family home, correct?
Correct.
And how many stories is it?
That's 2 stories.
And number of bedrooms?
3.
And number of bathrooms?
3. 3 now.
3, okay. And is that front structure occupied?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is it occupied by you, or is it?
Yes, by
Okay,
my wife and I.
okay. And then just, let's talk about the rear cottage. That's a single-family dwelling, so to speak?
Yes.
And how many stories is that?
2 stories.
And how many bedrooms?
I'd say 1.
Okay. And how many bathrooms?
1 bathroom.
And is that occupied?
Not currently.
Okay,
So my daughters come home from college
it's vacant. And I know you're gonna add a pool, so however you wanna handle, talk about what you want and why you're here and all those good things.
Sure. So, Mr. Kirsch hired me to do a pool plan for him at his property. Just the property, it's 211 3rd Avenue. It's 7,500 square feet in area, and it's located in the R75 zone. Once we surveyed the property, we determined that the existing lot coverage was 54.1%, where 50% is the maximum lot coverage allowed. So what we did was we removed some existing pavement on the property. We proposed to convert some of the existing driving to permeable pavers, where we get a 50% reduction in lot coverage. So the plan presented brought the lot coverage back down to 49.9%, which would be conforming. But we also determined that there's an existing cottage in the rear that was, we were told it was an existing non-conformity, and that's why we're here in front of the board today to legalize that particular cottage and hopefully approve the plan so that the pool can be constructed. I have two exhibits. The first one is just a colored rendering of the variance plan.
A5 is an illustrated rendering prepared by your office.
Prepared by office, it's dated August 9th, 2024. It's not,
so it's the same one?
The same one.
Illustrated. Thank you. And then A6 is what?
A6 is a photo board with 6 colored, actually 4 colored and 2 black and white photos. My printer ran out of ink, unfortunately. The site, I'll take one myself yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
I'll briefly show the board first. The top left photo is from the street. It's the existing house as it exists from the street. The top right photo is standing in the rear yard, looking at the rear of the house, has a porch in the rear. Bottom left photo shows the cottage to the rear of the house. Center photo, top photo, is standing in the rear yard, kind of looking down the driveway. Kind of a narrow driveway that's along the easterly side of the property. And the next 2 photos show the 2 side property lines. This is the the easterly property line, I believe. Shows a fence and some trees. And then the other photos, westerly side property line, which is also vegetation, the fence. This also shows some of the existing accessory structures that are also in the area. You guys are probably more aware than I am, but the surrounding area, similar size lots, similar type of houses. Many have these accessory structures in the rear. I'm not sure how many of them actually are cottages or are livable or whatnot, or how many are legalized. But it certainly it fits in the area. The plan we proposed, like I said, was had more lot coverage than was allowed, so we're trying to reduce that. So we think although we're constructing a swimming pool, we're bringing the plan more into conformance than what exists there today, and hopefully the cottage will be able to remain this day as it is.
Okay, is that it for your presentation?
I'm sorry?
Is that it?
That's it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer questions.
I would like to just make a comment, because you mentioned a couple times, we're not here to legalize the existence or the use of the pre-existing non-conforming cottage. So that's not on the agenda. I mean, this is really just about approving the variance that we need for the pool. So any action that we take here is not going to give any sort of different treatment of what the cottage is from what it was yesterday and from what it will be tomorrow. I just want to be clear about that.
Okay, I'm not sure why the pool, maybe I'm a little confused on why the pool would need a variance then.
Yeah, I can address that.
Okay,
I think, Ted, I think reading your review, it appears that this is a non-conforming site because there's 2 dwelling units on it, which is not permitted. So it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, as you indicated, Mr. Chairman. And Ted...
and it's going to remain a pre-existing non-conforming use. Okay.
And what happened is with the pool, in the past, Ted, you have interpreted that to be technical expansion of the non-conforming use. Even though you're not expanding the structure, but it's expanding the use by the pool. We've done that, so I think that's the
Yeah,
use.
the property itself is undergoing a change or expansion that requires a variance.
So that's, it's
But-
expansion.
Yeah,
But the
I think
approval of the
I-
variance to allow the pool is not going
Correct.
to do anything regarding
To
the
change
comments
the
themselves.
pre-existing
That's correct.
non-conforming
And I
nature,
wanted
yes.
to correct the comments that were
Absolutely.
made, because I don't want that to be reflected on the record as if
Good, excellent point.
we're agreeing to anything other than the pool tonight.
My apologies, that's the way I understood it, I think I was
No
just
problem.
saying, I was saying it a different way.
That's why we just clarified it, so we're good. Okay, so if you're done with your presentation, we're going to defer to the board for board questions, and then we'll open it up to the public. Public questions and comments, okay? So with that, we'll go. No, pretty straightforward.
On the other side of the pictures, that little piece of grass is where you're proposing the pool? On the bottom left?
The bottom left,
Yeah, between the deck and the,
this here?
yeah, like, is that where, you're?
The pool, actually, I probably the better picture is this picture where I'm kind of standing in front of the cottage looking at the back of the existing house. The pool's right in that area,
Which is the same as down there, right?
which
in front
is
of the-
sort of the same as right in that area there, we look, yes.
Okay.
The pool is, and I apologize too, I should have maybe explained that a little bit. It's a 12-foot by 21-foot in-ground pool, so it's a fairly modest size pool. It's 6 feet off the 6 feet off the existing deck to the rear, and 10 feet off the side property line.
So we're still gonna have some grass and everything?
Yeah, there'll be grass around it, and they're removing some of the existing pavers that are currently there, so there's no, just the coping of the pool, there's no sidewalk or walkway around the pool, it's just the coping and the grass.
Okay.
Just more of a comment, just what you said, I believe what I see there is you're reducing, originally it was up to 54, almost 55, and you removed paper, concrete, whatever, in order to keep it at normal. So I appreciate that, and that, so the only thing we're talking about is because the back house is there, it's the only reason we're getting through. So we're good.
Where's the entrance into the pool? Where are the steps going to be?
Describe I'm not sure what the low end is and where the deep end
The
is.
low end will be on this side here, and there will be entrance right in this corner here.
Steps down?
Yeah, steps down.
That's
There'll be
Okay, so in other words,
2 to 3 steps.
the steps don't run all the way across the deck area, so that's why that's grass there.
Correct.
And the existing driveway going back is paved, concrete?
It's all paved, going down, we're proposing about 340 square feet to remove the paving and put permanent pavers in.
Further questions?
Great. My question is, I don't think I should ask because it would deal with the garage and cottage. You can't have a garage and a cottage in the same building, I don't think. There's not enough room there.
I think that notation is just when the survey was done.
Well, at any rate,
Yeah.
I don't want to open this up because I don't want to let you think that we're approving this as a building. I don't even know if it's an approved building. Was it a garage and converted to a cottage? Was it done with building permits? I don't know. But that would be my only question, so I don't think it's the time to open it up now because.
No, I think it's appropriate if you're concerned about
Was that, well, I don't know how much history you have about the house. Was it always a garage that was converted? And when it was converted, was it converted legally with a?
I believe so. The actual house is 100 years old, a little over 100. I believe the cottage from the former owner, I believe he said it was somewhere like at least half of that amount or so. So I think it was there for, the time that he was there. So I don't think he made any changes to it.
It goes
But
pretty
it sounded
far
like
back.
everything was done properly according to them.
Do we know, April, whether there have been COs on that roof cottage?
I would have to look.
No, that's okay.
just going around the property, not the pool?
So the fencing will be basically off of the deck,
Yes?
straight across, all the way around, up
Yes.
to the bottom of the driveway. So it'll kind of be the whole backyard of the fencing.
So if in fact the cottage is rented, there's no fencing around the pool to protect somebody from?
I think the fencing, there would be no fence between the cottage and the
That's
pool.
what I'm asking.
The question becomes, what is the fencing requirement around the pool? Does that meet
You can enclose the property.
so?
You don't have to enclose each building to keep the buildings away.
Understood, okay,
It has to be from the public.
right.
So the fence has to be around the property, it's got to be 4-foot fence.
Yep, good,
Question?
thank you.
Great. Is that it?
That's it for me.
Okay, great. The only question I have is, and Ted, I know you've been through this before, but I just don't know how, I don't recall how a pool calculates against lot coverage. I know.
The water doesn't.
So,
Everything else does but the water.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means.
The water in the pool
Right.
doesn't count as lot coverage.
The square footage of the footprint of the pool does count as lot coverage, though, right?
Only the code, not the
Only
water.
the code.
Yeah. They took that out
Right.
10 years ago.
Right. This is why I always get confused by it, so.
It used to be,
Do
it
you know
used
what
to say that in
calculation you
the
use?
ordinance.
Yeah, we didn't include the water service, and we didn't include the code.
Okay, very good.
That's
Okay,
all.
I just want to try to get the numbers right.
It used to say that in there, then they just took it out, but they didn't say that it
Okay.
was
All right,
calculated.
great. And then, more comment than question, but just for the record, Mr. Kennedy, there's a statement on here, it says a variance is required to retain an existing garage cottage, and I just want to strike that and just say,
Absolutely.
it's reflected on whatever you're calling this piece of evidence, this big sheet.
Got it.
Right, just to reiterate what we said before, that, we're not doing anything regarding, not taking any action at all regarding the cottage.
Got it.
Well, we're gonna open up to the public, and then we'll come back to us for comment. So, if anyone here from the public is, if anyone's here to discuss this application, now would be the time to stand up, raise your hand, somehow acknowledge, yes, sir, come
We
on
live
up.
right next door, and we have no objection.
You'd have to come up.
Just come on up, we're just gonna make it real official.
I'm sorry, but that's how we do it.
Just state your name and address, please.
Charles and Lori Crocco, 213 3rd Avenue.
And Crocco is?
CROCCO.
Okay, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide to the extent you provide will be the truth, best of your knowledge, to help you God?
Yes.
Now it's official, say it again what you said.
We live right on the same side where the pool's going to be. We have no objection.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Anyone else from the public? No? Close the public question comment section, and we'll go straight back to the board in the same order that we just had. I'm good.
I'm good.
Good. Just a couple comments. Noting here that we have a variety of, you have pre-existing pavers and you're gonna do new. It's just a comment. I think you should give consideration to a good layout for your pavers there in the rear yard. My concern for you is that you're not giving proper egress into the pool. You're not establishing a defined area for chairs, et cetera. The walkway back to the proposed pool equipment, and we're checking that they're pervious pavers. So if you were to make any revisions to this, I would suggest you do it in advance, laying your pavers down. Otherwise, I think it's fine.
Great, now I'm okay with it. Just for the record.
Okay.
And I have no objection. So with that, Mr. Kennedy, sum up?
Sure. If the application were to be approved, some of the potential conditions would be compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations made during the hearing. We usually have a 24-month shelf life within which you need to obtain necessary permits, compliance with any applicable affordable housing rules, regulations, any outside approvals. We typically say, unless waived by the borough engineer, grading and drainage details need to be prepared or approved by the borough engineer. When it's done, we typically require certification saying that the pool was installed in accordance with the approved plans, in accordance with the testimony, and in accordance with the resolution. Again, and again, I think this is important, the pool complies in all respects, all setbacks, there's no variance relief granted for that, there's no lot coverage variance, we talked about that. confirmation, as Tony indicated, that it is going to be permeable pavers as indicated on the plans. I think we usually say pool equipment in a zoning compliant location. And I think we also, the pool compliant fence, and some of the things we said today, no bulk variance relief. And we are going to have the plan revised so as to portray and confirm that, Mr. Chairman, to your point, to avoid any confusion later on about legitimizing that structure. We're going to have any references on the plan to that removed. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use, and that's not changing as a result of this pool. And Tony, it was not a condition, it was a recommendation about reconsidering a better layout for the pavers and egress and egress. And as long as they stay within the variance, the code requirements, no requirement to come back here for it. So I think, AJ, were those conditions acceptable to what you all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, we can
I'd
move
like
on
to
for
make a
vote.
motion to approve this application.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Mazel?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Mr. Almeida?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. Rogers?
Congratulations.
Thank
Good luck with the project. Appreciate it. Hope it goes smoothly.
When you say.
Yeah.
Okay, the next application is Lisa and John Cronin, 1501 C Street.
Okay, as the applicants come forward, we'll just do a couple of minor housekeeping details. So first up, for the second, and not the final time tonight, we're going to swear in Ted Bianchi, our zoning officer construction official. Ted, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide to these and providing the truth to the best of your knowledge, help you God? Thank you. Is there anyone here who had any questions or comments or concerns regarding the notice that they received? Okay. Friend, the board secretary and I reviewed everything and found it to be in order. So it'd be my humble opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. We will mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that is dated June 18, 2024 / June 22nd, 2024. We have A2 will be the minor land use application denial form dated June 22nd, 2024. A3 is the development application package dated June 28, 2024. A4 is a picture of the front of the home, and we'll just get that qualified in a little bit. A5 appears to be a picture of the rear of the home. And A6 are the floor plans and elevations prepared by Champion Modular XL Home, dated September 11, 2020. April, that was A6. And A7 is a construction drawing site plan prepared by Feldman Architects, and it's dated June 11, 2024, and it's one page. A8 is a survey of the property prepared by Charles Sermont, and that's dated September 14, 2023. I think there's one more. A9 are the architectural plans prepared by Feldman Architects, dated June 11, 2024. And good evening, Mr. Middleton.
Good evening.
And swear in your witnesses.
We have the board exhibit.
Okay, what number, A10 is what?
That is an aerial of the property and surrounding property prepared by my office.
Got it. All right. So why don't you two introduce yourselves?
Lisa Cronin.
C-R-O-N-I-N.
Yes.
Okay.
Tom Peterson, architect.
Good evening. And Tom, just for the record, your business address?
It's Tom Peterson Architect LLC, 6 Country Lane.
Powell? New Jersey. Yeah. Okay. And Joe, just for the record, state your name and business address.
Joseph Kashuba, Kociuba, KBA Engineering Services, Manasquan, New Jersey.
And if we could, all raise your hand. Ladies and gentlemen, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
All right, and just for the record, Tom, you're testifying in capacity as an architect?
Yes.
And licenses and certifications are current and up to date, and I think you were here before us last month.
Yes.
And Joe, you are testifying in your capacity as engineer and planner, and your licenses and certifications are current and up front as well?
Correct.
Okay, and I think you were before us, maybe not last month, but 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago?
Last month, 2 months ago.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
May I proceed?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Just briefly, I'm here on behalf of Mr. Cronin. The issue tonight is they seek approval for a new sunroom, 14 by 10. Your testimony from Mrs. Cronin, that the purpose is ostensibly because your mother is moving in with them. Your mother suffers from polio. They're converting a den on the first floor to a bedroom. To provide a little more space for the family. You're proposing this rather, say, modest 14 by 10 room. It does trigger a variance for rear yard, and that's why there are no coverage issues. And I don't believe any other variance issues. With that, I'd like to proceed with Mrs. Cronin. Mrs. Cronin, you're one of the owners of the property, correct?
Yes.
You own it with your husband?
Yeah.
And how long have you owned the property for?
1 year.
And as I recall, this is a modular that was built by Mr. Albertus.
Yeah.
And he's behind us.
Correct.
And as you've told me, your mother is either living with you now or intends to move in with you.
Yeah.
And she suffers from polio.
She had polio. Yeah.
And would have trouble going upstairs where the bedrooms are located.
Yeah.
And as I recall, you have three bedrooms upstairs, correct?
Yeah.
2 bathrooms. The den on the first floor,
Yeah.
kitchen, living room, and dining room,
Yeah.
open floor.
Yeah.
Okay. So describe, if you could, to the board, what you're proposing. Just,
So the existing den area that provides a little bit of separation, we're making it to a bedroom for her, my mom. And she has difficulty walking because of her polio that she has as a child. So we'd like to add the sunroom to the rear so that we just have a little separation area for TV or just actually just sitting and reading maybe.
no place you could get away,
Have a little separation.
a little
from
solace from
my
the windows.
husband.
Okay. Little room. Just a little room for everybody, because the den now is the place
Yeah, like
you would go to read a paper, or read a book, or.
Right, so that's, yeah, won't be available.
I don't think I have much more to add. I'd like to call, if I go, Tom Peterson.
Hi, everyone.
Give your, I guess, architect your insight into the proposal.
Sure. The guys from Feldman couldn't make it, so I'm pinch hitting tonight, so that's why I'm here. What I would say is that these types of additions, and you guys see this kind of stuff all the time, becoming more and more common. And I know for Promise they have a family reason for that. But what we're seeing is things like this that are very similar for people doing home offices or places where they can work from the house. This is a nice spot for them in their yard because it's also got access from the backyard. So it becomes a nice sort of an entry into the house without going directly into the house. But it also gives them a little privacy, a little bit of seclusion. We sometimes call them flex rooms, office area, sitting area, whatever. If you take a look at this from the drawings, you can see it really does have the look of a sunroom. Both sides have glass, full wall. The back has glass, and then in the middle of that is going to be an area for a small fireplace on the inside, gas direct vent fireplace, not a fireplace with a chimney. It's not a big room. 10 foot by 14 foot is very appropriate for this type of an addition and for this type of a use. This doesn't really impact the intensity of the use for the house or the intensity of the occupancy in the house or anything like that. The addition is going to be on a crawl space. It's not on a basement, so we're not adding any additional space in the basement area down below. It's only one-story addition, so very low impact in the yard and for the neighborhood. Joe is going to kind of go over the rationale and why we have this located where it is. It's an unusual property, though, and Joe will go over it. The way the back property line cuts at a slant, and that continues for all the houses right there along the block. You'll even see for the houses next door that are also even closer and closer and closer to those property lines. None of these residents did that. That's just the way that block was developed. But I think the overall thing to leave you with is that this type of an addition and this type of development on a property, although for the family is more family related than anything, would also be a very typical type of an application for any homeowner. And as I said, I know you guys see this stuff all the time, but I wanted to get that on the record that there's nothing unusual about this.
So just go back, COVID, home offices, I think we're seeing more young adults move in with parents, correct?
Yes.
And we're seeing more seniors move back with their children, correct?
Mhm.
All sorts of reasons, economic reasons, cost of living.
It's, I remember the time warning, I remember it. So, but I'll say very quickly, the last 4 or 5 years has seen the popularity and the request for these types of rooms really explode. Used to be working from home, maybe a couple hours a week, you sit at the kitchen counter, you do those kinds of things. Well, now, more and more people are spending several days working at home, or even more. Well, sitting at the kitchen counter, sitting at the dining room table becomes a little bit more difficult. As well, to have a little place, so you all know that open floor plans, open kitchen, open family area. But what we've lost a little bit of is that kind of a private area where you can just go and sit and read a book or watch TV. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these types of projects and applications. Many of them don't have to come before the board because we've got an emergency situation here.
Okay. No further questions. Mr. Stewart?
Good evening.
Joe, you've reviewed the plans, correct?
I have.
You have the aerial, correct?
Aerial, and I've also been to the site and reviewed the neighborhood.
Okay. And you describe just briefly the variances involved, the positive and negative criteria.
Certainly. So the only variance here is for rear yard setback. The coverage complies, both impervious and building coverage. It is a slightly undersized lot. 3,894 square feet where 4,000 is required. It's existing condition, and it's shallow in depth as was described by Mr. Peterson specifically on that southern side. The lot's only 77.48 feet deep, so it is somewhat shallow and an odd shape. You can see on the aerial, which I had handed out, that Mr. Peterson's absolutely correct. That angled property line continues throughout the rear yards of not only this lot, but the lots to the north and south. The lot to the north, it's actually their sideline. The lot to the south has 2 homes on it, and both of those homes are impacted by that property line. And you can see that their rear yard setback is substantially less than what exists on this lot. It's actually less than what we're proposing even with the sunroom. So this will not be out of character with the neighborhood. The homes to the south are even closer to the property line. The home immediately to the north at 401, you can see has almost no rear yard setback.
And 400 has vertical, correct?
Correct. So, all of which is, demonstrates that this is in character of the neighborhood. This is also, so the variances here can be granted under both the C1 and C2 criteria. The C1 is the hardship criteria by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of the property. It creates a hardship. This shape of the property and shallowness creates the hardship here for creating this additional space. Additional space is warranted, it's conforming with the building coverage. It is only 1 story, so it'll have little impact on air-like open space. So I think the variance could be granted under the C1 criteria. I think it could also be granted under the C2 criteria, the promotion of the general welfare. Aging in place is certainly a large concern these days, and the Fair Housing Act does indicate that some minor relief can be granted to justify cases where we have those kind of conditions. So I think for multiple reasons this could be granted by both the C1 and C2 criteria. I also don't believe it'll have any substantial detriment to the public good. It is only 1 story. It's not out of character with the neighborhood. It's actually, even after this, the rear yard setback will be greater than most of the neighbors. No impact to parking. Going from 3 bedrooms to 4 bedrooms is still 2 parking stalls required. And it doesn't create any other variances. So I think for all those reasons, there'll be no impact to the public good. There'll be no detriment to the zoning plan or the zoning ordinance. So in my opinion, the variances can be granted as requested.
Thank you, Mr. Schuler. Any other comments?
That's it for me.
I have no further questions and no further witnesses.
Okay, we'll go to the board. Board questions and start down on this.
The shed, is the shed remaining in its same condition?
Yeah.
I've got a mother with polio as a kid also. She's 99 years old.
Awesome.
She's got stories to tell. So good on you for bringing her in. That's great. I have no questions.
I'd love to know the history of who divided up these properties. I think his ruler slipped and getting corrected. Who gets first dibs on the sunroom, your husband or you?
I would say your mom.
My mom, yeah, for sure.
Jimmy says he does. I understand what you're doing, and I have no other questions.
Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Kashuba, the paper patio, pervious?
I believe that's.
The reason before you answer that, the concrete walkway, concrete driveway, paper patio, shed, AC condenser, wood on the side, you're sure that the building coverage on this is correct and that the impervious coverage is correct?
The impervious coverage was created by Mr. Feldman's office, and the plan that was submitted, he does identify that it is compliant. I believe he did count that as pervious under the ordinance. I did not review the patio to see the conditions of it, whether the sand joints were there or whatnot, but I do believe the patio was probably considered part of the a pervious patio.
And then the driveway is all concrete?
Correct, that's the existing condition.
Ted, what's the minimum setback requirement for a shed off the property line?
The rear yard?
Yeah.
3 feet.
So I guess we should have the shed corrected, right? If they want to do the sunroom, we're showing it at 1'6".
That's correct.
It might be deeper on the one side, but only because.
Yeah, so at the back left corner of the shed is 1'6".
So it's 3 feet, it's 3 feet off.
Well, you can move it if you want us to move it.
All right.
Yeah, I just, think I got listeners to that. If the board wants us to move it, we'll move it.
It's just, I'm cool with the sunroom, but, I'm staring at the survey, if the shed's not conforming, we have an
We'll
opportunity
move
where it should be corrected. I understand though that there might be egress issues there, if the doors swing out, and I'll have a good photo of it to really look at it. My main concern and question is that, when I'm looking at the aerial, as lovely as it is, and we're saying that there's only 50% coverage on this lot, it doesn't look that way to me, but I'm not a mathematician, so, no further questions.
I'm going to go, because typically I wait till the end, but because of the questions that Mr. Almeida raised, I had similar questions and concerns, and I visited the property. Ted, just so I'm clear about it, there's a number of spots where there's river stone on this property. How does that count against lot coverage?
Stone is a lot coverage, 100%.
It's
Unless it's in the driveway, you get 50%.
not in the driveway, it's in like beds and other
In
areas.
beds, you're allowed to do that, doesn't count.
It doesn't count as, so if I have stone in a bed, that's considered as if it were grass, then there's no charge for that.
No, there's no restriction.
And how about astroturf? Because there's a significant amount of astroturf.
AstroTurf?
Yes.
It has to be listed that it works. It comes with the specs of the AstroTurf,
Right.
and that would count whatever the listing is on. You're allowed to put that in the rear yard, can't be exposed to the street, has to be in the rear yard.
Right, okay, great. And I just have the same concern. I mean, just logic tells you when you view the property and when you view what's here, it just looks to me, 50% impervious. So I'm questioning the calculation, and I'm not sure what to do about that.
It looks 50% impervious without the sun.
That's right. That's right. As is, right, existing, and the sunroom would make that number go up. So, you know, the question is the validity of what's here, where it's saying 46.4 and only going up to 49.8, where 55 is permitted, just, you know, appears to be a problem.
We can have them confirmed, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're testifying to it here, but I mean, if we want to try to get to a vote, we somehow need to, that's redundant, right? Because the person testifying, the person that we need to testify is not here. As to the accuracy of the impervious calculation. Right, because it certainly looks like more than 50% lot coverage, but, okay.
We can confirm that.
Mr. Lubin,
I mean, other than that concern, I have no concerns.
okay.
No concerns or questions?
I'm to say, you don't have the table that shows what was included in it? The lot
I didn't
coverage?
prepare it, in this case, the
A lot of times they
prepared
put
it.
it right on
Right,
drawing.
and it's on the top right corner is the table, but they didn't actually provide the calculation.
Yeah, 'cause
Like
it
my office
looks
usually
way
does,
over,
try and
so,
keep that information. We didn't have it this evening from Mr. Bell, I apologize.
you know. That's it.
Okay, is there anyone here from the public that has any questions or comments regarding this application? Please raise your hand. Bring up your microphone and tell us what those questions or comments might be. No one from the public is raising their hand, so we'll close the public session. I guess we'll go to board comments now. Starting, same one.
I think you'll really make good use of that sunroom, but I would also be concerned about those calculations, just to make sure those calculations are right.
Yeah, I share that opinion. As long as the calculation is good, I say good to go, and I understand your need for full.
Somebody's got to just reconfirm that and then go for the sign.
Okay, you know, same, but just trying to get to some rationale here. If the calculations are off, then we would need a variance for impervious coverage that we would be talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm.
We're relying on developing.
Yeah, and the gentleman's not here, that would have to be the one that's on record as to the accuracy, where Mr. Schuba, I understand you're saying, you're not the one who did the calculation, so
It sounds like I'll be the one who is doing it.
we're a little bit out of loss, without you, well, why, the other gentleman's not involved anymore?
Well, I will reconfirm them, is essentially,
Yeah, he's gonna come testify.
Okay, and you heard about the AstroTurf and the permeability of it?
Yes.
That there's a number that's got to get used for the AstroTurf, because I would assume right now the AstroTurf is being counted as fully permeable. So, you know, if the AstroTurf calculation is calculated as grass, and as Mr. Bianchi's stating here, that's really not the case. AstroTurf has to take a percentage based on the type you put in. I would expect that calculation to change on that alone. And then the other things that Mr. Almeida mentioned, notwithstanding, including the sunroom, what the total lot coverage is gonna ultimately be, and whether or not the projected 49.8% number is correct. So let's make sure we get that number, because they're saying right now, Mr. Kennedy, that this is only going up 3.4%, from 46.4 to 49.8. But that presumes that both the original calculation of 46.4 is correct, and that the expansion of 3.4 is only due to the sunroom. Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Lou?
Beyond that, can we vote?
Yeah, it could be contingent on confirmation of the number, and then next month's meeting, we wouldn't do the true affirmation of this until we get recertified what the current lot coverage percentages are, and then what the new lot coverage
And
percentage.
if it were to go to 55 or whatever, we do those based on what we're doing anyway.
Right.
So that's my question.
Right. If it's under 55,
give or take.
Right.
Then,
If it exceeds 55, it's going to trigger variance.
Okay.
Any consideration to taking the concrete driveway out and putting the pavers in? If you are over, that would be your
That's what I was
potential solution.
thinking.
Yeah, we could do that, and when he certifies the amount, that would be.
Yes, what I would anticipate would happen is part of the, we would try and get the numbers prior to prior to issuing the resolution of approval, but we would calculate it, and if I were to determine that the calculation is over, we would offer a solution to adjust that.
To bring it.
Otherwise, we have to reopen the case.
Bring it into
request an
compliance.
increase.
Right, and I think that's what the remedy will be, and just if you're doing the calculation, just make sure that, if we're making assumptions that the existing paver patio is permeable and not impervious, and that when it's in the calculation, you're also going to certify that you're validating that it's not impervious.
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely.
the same with the astroturf. So any lot coverage matter, you'll come back and that will be part of the new calculation. Okay. Mr. O'Neill?
Nothing further.
Did you have a question?
Oh, I just was going to say, it was done, I think, 3 years ago, so hopefully under the rules that applied then and that.
Well, newer astroturfs are actually fairly pervious compared to the old Giant Stadium plastic astroturf. And we don't call it astroturf. So typically they are a pervious material, but I will certainly verify.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, so with that, Mr. Kennedy, if you want to summarize.
Okay, if the application is going to be approved, I've taken the liberty of writing some of down potential conditions. Our standard conditions would be, and this would be granting the rear yard setback variance, 25 feet required, 13 feet proposed. And the conditions would include all the promises, commitments, and representations the team made tonight, compliance with the prevailing affordable housing rules, regulations, contributions if they apply, 24-month shelf life within the building permit could be issued, obtaining all necessary outside approvals with the understanding that if the nature of the changes as a result of those outside approvals, further clearance is necessary. Grading and drainage details to be reviewed by the borough engineer. When it's done, finished, we'll need a certification from the applicant's professionals confirming that the improvements were installed in accordance with the approved plans, the testimony, and the authorizing resolution. We typically have the requirement that you professionally maintain the landscaping. And some of the things we talked about tonight were, and this was just something I thought of, and if I'm overstepping my bounds, let me know. Obviously, it's a great situation that you're helping out your mother, but just for the record, I think sometimes other towns are very sensitive to say that it's being utilized and approved as and maintained as a single-family home. It's not a two-family home. It's not a mother-daughter structure. I think that was the implication. And we also talked about the shed is to be removed, or shed to be relocated, I think we said.
If the board wants us to, we can make it. It's up to you.
I do think, as I've been back there, it does, because it's on an angle, I think it's probably 3 feet at the one section and maybe less on the other, but
Okay.
there's definitely deeper on one.
Yeah, so it's only at one corner that it is not compliant.
Tilted, I guess.
So relocate it if it's not compliant. And we are going to clarify and confirm the coverage calculations. Make it very clear that at this point, the board is not granting any coverage variance relief. And we'll have those calculations put on the zoning table too. But I think, Mr. Chairman, to the point that you all made is confirm those coverage, confirm that it's calculated correctly in accordance with our regulations regarding AstroTurf or whatever we call it now, and some of those other concrete things. And you'll have that plan to us by the next meeting. And so, as Tim indicated, if it's not compliant, well, Joe indicated they're going to try to make it compliant so that there's no variance needed. And if it's not compliant and you need a variance, you'll have to come back, but hopefully that's not the case.
Correct.
So if those, Tim, those are acceptable to you and your client?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, if they're acceptable to the board, we can vote.
Thank you for that summary, Mr. Kennedy, appreciate that. Someone wants to make a motion to approve?
I will make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Ms. Brunel?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Mr. Almeida?
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Rubin?
Yes.
Ms. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, everyone.
Okay, our next application this evening is Liberato Casale, 1017 16th Avenue.
All right, as the applicant team comes forward, we'll just do a couple of preliminary procedural things. Is there anyone here who had any questions or comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice? All right, don't see any. The board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order, so it'll be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed. And what we will do for the third, but not the final time tonight, Sergeant Ted Bianchi is our construction officer and zoning official. Ted, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth, to the best of your knowledge, to help you God? Thank you. And we will mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that is dated June 25th, 2024, and June 26th, 2024. A2 is the zoning board development application package dated July 2nd, 2024. And A3 is the variance plan prepared by KBA Engineering Services, one sheet dated June 5th, 2024. And A4 is a picture looking in to the yard, and A5 is a picture which appears to be from the front, and we can have that confirmed in a little bit. A6 is the minor land use application denial form dated June 26, 2024. And A7, floor plans prepared by Tom Peterson, two sheets dated April 30th, 2024. And good evening again, Mr. Middleton.
Good evening, Mr. Kennedy, members of the board. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. We're requesting permission for a second-story addition as per the plan that Mr. Peterson and his sons created. There's a few variances in connection with the application. There's coverage variances, and for Mr. Peterson, they will barely change with this application. It's sort of an odd issue in the rear. You could call it a back building, a back house. It's a small structure. Has never been rented. They don't want to rent it. The grandmother used to use it to a place to cook. She was cooking for a lot of people would be here. I think as her son said, we have man caves, that was her cave. No air that created the unusual issue. That created a use variance because it was viewed by Ted as a separate living structure. And because it was viewed that way, technically we need a use variance because we're expanding the intensity of the front house by proposing an addition. So I mentioned that, and again, it's never been rented, never intended to be rented. We have the family here, people don't sleep there, it's just sitting there. So that all being said, I think the photograph or the rendering speaks for itself. I think this will be a substantial improvement of the existing home. I think, high tide lifts all boats. I think this type of structure on that street would be a real addition. So, Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, just state your name again
Tom Peterson, architect,
and business address.
6 Country Lane, Howell, New Jersey.
All right, Tom, good evening and welcome again. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
And just for the record, you're testifying in your capacity as a licensed certified architect,
Yes.
and your licenses and certifications are up to date, as nothing bad has happened in the last 10 minutes, correct?
Not that I'm aware of.
Very good.
I also have some more presents for you.
All right, April, what do we have, A8?
Yes.
So A8 is,
So A8 is the rendering that we have there.
and that's the illustrated rendering prepared by your office?
Yes.
Is there a date on it?
I don't think so.
All right, we'll put today's date, October 24th, 2024.
Here's a full size. But then I'm gonna hand out here just so you can see. Then we have some additional photographs.
All right, so this was A8?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to mark that as A8. And A9 is a series of photographs. Oh, A9 is
An aerial.
aerial. Okay. And then A10.
7 photos.
All right, so we're going to mark them as A10, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. 7 photographs of the home.
Of the property, yes. The property
Okay.
as it exists within the last couple of weeks.
Taken by your office
Yes.
in last several weeks. Got it.
So we'll
Thank
leave those
you.
for you. And then, these are all, just some copies, it might be easier for you to have them up here. What I'm gonna be showing, the photographs as well as the rendering. So, you guys can have that too.
Tom, before you begin, I just want to, as a foundation, so the rendering was prepared by your office, correct?
Correct.
And that will accurately depict the house after it's built,
Correct.
right down to the windows, right down.
So the windows, the roof shaping, we still haven't picked out the exact siding and all that other stuff yet, but this is the exact size, proportion, the roof line, the metal roof here, the bracketry, all of the things that, that we're showing on there will be as we're showing here.
You're the design architect, correct?
Yes.
Could you describe the current condition of the house and the proposal?
Sure. So this is an existing lot. It's an existing lot with a family, single-family home up front, a small home, and then, as Tim explained, there's a little structure in back. It has a bathroom, it has a little kitchenette area. There's no heat, no cooling, nobody sleeps there, nobody does anything. It's sort of an extension of an outdoor kitchen. But, as Ted pointed out, it could be considered another dwelling, so for that reason, Tim's mentioned that would be considered a use variance. So it's an undersized lot. The undersized shape of the lot, the position of the house, and the narrowness of the house are really the main drivers for the variances that we're asking for to go ahead and expand this. Currently, the house on the property, and I'm going to show you some photographs now. So currently, the house on the property is really a story and a half. If you take a look from the front, you can see there's this existing enclosed porch or sunroom, which we're going to keep but upgrade. And then if you can look at the sides, you can see that the center of the house has a second floor up above. So if you can see here from the side, there's a second floor area up above. set back a little bit from the front, set back a little bit from the rear. Also in the rear is a covered, this is considered building coverage, a true roof-covered area here. We're going to be enclosing that, adding just this little space here to the side, and then we have a pervious deck that comes out. Here's a picture of that back structure here. As a part of our proposal, what we would like to do is put new siding and new windows in here so that it looks like it's a whole new development on the property. But there's no other change to this in the back, no other change to use. We're not adding heat or cooling or anything like that.
I'm sorry, there's no change in the back structure, you said, or?
Other than exterior materials and windows, no changes on the inside, no addition of heating or cooling or anything like that. So let me talk about the plan a little bit. What the clients were interested in was to expand the second floor to the front and back so that we could pick up some more space up on the second floor. As I said, in the rear on the first floor, this section here, which is a mudroom and a half bath, that's under the existing impervious roof area, and then we're just expanding this little bit here, which is roughly 18 square feet, to square it off on that end. We didn't want to do anything to this side because of the proximity to the side yard setback there, and we really don't need it. So the goal on the first floor was to make this more of an open area. Right now it's all chopped up. It's an old seashore cottage. It's been in their family, since Angela's grandparents, but nowhere near what you would consider current desires and current use for people in their homes. So the goal here was to open this all up. So as you can see on the first floor, we have an open family area, an open eat-in kitchen area, stairs to the front. We're maintaining that enclosed sunroom, but we're changing some of the windows there to make it look a little bit more open. So it has that true seashore sunroom porch area in the front. On the second floor, what we've done is we've expanded a little bit to the front, expanded a little bit to the back. Where we had that covered area in the back, the second floor expands over that now. But that's already counted as building coverage down on the first floor. Now on the second floor, we have two legitimate bedrooms. One is a true primary bedroom suite with its own bathroom and some closet area. Another guest room with another bathroom upstairs, a small washer and dryer closet. And then the area above the sunroom, you take a look at that here on the elevation, that's going to become another room. We're saying it's a bedroom just to be fair, that somebody could use it as a bedroom, but just like the previous application, this is going to be more of a flex room for Angelo to be able to have a desk in here or a home office area without being in the midst of the whole family area. So it's not a big house to begin with. If you take a look at the existing first floor, is roughly 700 square feet. That does not include this area in the back here. With the addition, that goes to 790 square feet. The existing second floor, that space in here is approximately 430 square feet. We're adding roughly 360, so the second floor will also be 790 square feet. When you take the combination of the two, it's not even 1,600 square feet. So, as we always try to do on these smaller properties, we don't want to be greedy. We don't want to overbuild. We're not looking for a 3,000 square foot home here. A 1,580 square foot home for a 2/3 bedroom home is very appropriate. We've got some nice open area here, but we didn't want to take more into the backyard than we needed to accommodate the family here. But this now becomes more of a typical family home. Angelo can be here with his girlfriend, he gets married, they have a kid. It really is something more than what it is right now, which is not a home that a family would live in. The only other thing that we've done of note is off of the bedroom and back then, we have a 6-foot by 13-foot pervious deck, although there'll be paving underneath it, but it's a pervious deck, so it's not a fiberglass deck, it's not a hard surface or roof there. That's strictly off of the, what would be Angelo's bedroom back here, so it's more of a private deck. It's not a deck where a lot of people are going to gather out there. Angelo, maybe one other person, but that's about it. I know how much you guys like it when I talk about some of the architectural features, so I'm going to touch on that briefly. But these kinds of projects are fun. We had a great client who was very interested in having a home that would look like that historic seashore style that you have so much of in Belmar. So that's why you see a lot of these features that really add to this. A lot of the bracketry, some different use of materials here, some metal roof in front. You also see some bracketry here. It's also kind of cool for us as nerdy architects because this is right where Briarwood comes right into that. So you're going to have a view of this as you're coming down that street. It really is going to make a nice statement for the neighborhood there, for the houses, you know, on either side. And these are the kinds of homes that you would root for people to do up and down the block and throughout town. I do want to go over real quickly just some of the other elevations here, very quickly. So you see the front elevation. Here in the back, this is where that small deck is up on the second floor. You can see how we kept this back from the side yard wall very close. You can see the roof lines there. You see some of this different window treatments in the front. It's those kinds of things that give it that historic feel to it. You know, you can see how this got like that 1910s, 1920s kind of a feel, which was such a cool era for architecture. The heavier trim around the windows and all. Sides become more simple because you've got the roof line that comes all the way across. I want to note that there's no half-story space up above. It's purely attic. It's not even high enough for that. That's just attic area up above. The other thing that we're going to be doing here is, if you were to come to the house now, the structure needs work. There's a lot of areas where the structure is needs some additional support. As well, from a building code standpoint now, we'll be able to bring this up entirely to all the new building codes. So the wall here, which is close to the property line, will now be a fire-rated wall, which it currently isn't. There's some window areas, some openings along there. We're going to be removing those because they're strictly speaking by code too close to the property line. So that's why when you look at the plan, you'd say, oh, why are all the windows on this side? It's a building code issue. As well, we've got the high wind load zone, so a lot of the strapping and bracketry and nailing patterns will comply with the new building codes. So we're kind of excited about this one going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Any more presentation? Any more presentation?
Yes, Mr. Kachula, please.
All right, Joe, please state your name and business address.
Joseph Kashuba, KOCIUBA, KBA Engineering Services, Madison, New Jersey.
Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, so help you God?
I do.
And for the record, you're testifying in your capacity as you did the last application as an engineer and planner.
That is correct.
And licenses and certifications are current and up to date.
Still, yes.
Thank you.
Joe, if you could, I don't belabor the record. I think Tom did a great job describing it. Could you give your analysis as a planner with reference to, you did the plot plan, correct?
Correct. So my office did prepare the plot plan in this case. It is an undersized lot, 3,533 square feet in the R50 zone. It's about 71% of the required size. More importantly, it's only 23 and a half feet wide, where the width and frontage requirement is 50. So it's less than half of the required width. Pre-existing, and it's developed all around all sides, so no ability to rectify that. Surrounded by single-family residential, the R50 zone, east, west, and north. The southern property line is actually the border with Wall Township. So the properties to the south are Wall, they're in their R75 zone, 7,500 square foot zone. That existing front dwelling, as we indicated, a small 1.5 story. 770 square feet of usable space, not a substantial home, and certainly suffered from some deferred maintenance, needs some TLC. That rear structure is noted as 1.5 story guest house. Only consists of 262 square feet. You heard the testimony about the usage of that, but by definition, this is an expansion of a non-conforming use. If you consider that to be a secondary dwelling. We are proposing to simply expand the front dwelling. The only changes to the back would be cosmetic, which it needs, so you can see that in the photos. The expansion is modest and over the first floor. It's a small 2-story addition, no half-story, only an attic. We're expanding, the only expansion beyond the existing footprint, so as Mr. Peterson indicated, there's a rear roofed porch on the back of the property. The proposed addition is located in that exact location. The only expansion is on the east side of that, about 2 feet, 2.5 feet. Accounts for 18 square feet of increased coverage.
I'm sorry, how much increase?
18. Now, my office did do the coverage calculations in this case, and we do have them all listed. And very unfortunate after last case, I do have to note there's an error on my calculations, but for the better. Our existing building coverage calculation is accurate. Our proposed building coverage calculation, we actually included that rear deck and building coverage. But by definition, because it is open slatted, no roof, it's not building coverage. So we note that the proposed building coverage is at 40.78% on the plan. That is actually inaccurate. What we're proposing is 38.38%, where the existing is 37.87%. And that's the increase of 18 square feet, which is just that sliver of additional space of the addition on the east side, so that if you notice on the east side of the plan, the proposed addition aligns with the outside of the building, whereas if you look at the existing condition, that existing roofed area is actually inset by about 2 feet. So that's the only increase in building coverage that we're requesting. Ted did indicate that we do have to include the deck as 50% coverage, and as we testified, we are actually putting patio underneath that, which would make it 100% coverage. That is already accounted for in the impervious coverage calculations, because we had it in there as building coverage already. It was already considered impervious. So the impervious coverage calculations we show are fully accurate. There we are increasing the impervious coverage from 65.04% to 65.8%. That's 25 square feet. That 25 square feet is that little expansion, and we did some changes to the walkway where it attaches to the back of the building. There is some existing driveway. The driveway wraps around the back of the house now. Some of that is coming out. That's why it balances to have only an increase of 25 square feet. So certainly those are over what's permitted. So we're proposing that 38.38% building coverage where 30 is permitted. But again, it's a very slight de minimis increase in my opinion. And the proposed impervious at 65.8% is increasing from 65.04, where 55 is permitted. And again, that's a very slight increase as a result of the addition. We do require variances for the setbacks, and that's simply because we're expanding inside the setback. We're not increasing it or decreasing any setbacks, we're just building up. So the front yard setback in the existing condition is 17.8 feet. 20 feet is required. We're proposing 17.8. That's the addition of the space above the existing front enclosed porch. The side yard setback on the west side is 6 inches, 0.5 feet.
I'm sorry, side, on which side?
West side.
And how much was that?
That is 0.5 feet. And there's a combined side setback of 7.47 feet. 5-foot side setbacks required and 10-foot combined. We're not decreasing that at all, we're not impacting at all, we're just going up over the existing footprint. So that does create new variances for the volume inside the setback. The only place where we get any closer to a property, there is one spot, and it's in the back right corner of the addition. The existing overhang does not extend right to that corner, and the property, the house isn't exactly parallel to the property line, so we do get a touch closer. It's less than 3 inches. That is the only spot that we get any closer to a property line. The side yard setback on that side is mostly 6 inches. It's only in that back corner, and we've intentionally set the addition back so that we're more than 3 feet from the property line for fire protection, to allow for windows in that space, but it does get just a touch closer to the property line right there. The guest house, or the rear structure does have some nonconformities, none of those are changing. It has a side yard setback of 0.2 feet, a combined side setback of 3.6. It also has a rear yard setback of 3.7, where 25 is required for the rear. All those are not changing again, the only re-siding, we're gonna, brush it up, but we're not changing anything with regard to that structure. So the key variances here are the very slight, de minimis increases in coverage, and the side and front setback, which are built in the same footprint. Now, as far as the D2 variance, that is technically a use variance, but where special reasons rooted in the purposes of planning are necessary to justify a use variance. The promotion of the general welfare is a special reason most embodies the use variance. But this is not a D1 variance. We're not asking for a new use, we're asking for expansion. So we're not creating the condition where there's two dwellings, we're just expanding it and by definition intensifying it. However, there's not a substantial increase in bedrooms here. Again, we're only asking for a 3-bedroom home here, which doesn't have an increase in parking demand. And because that exists, our position is the site is particularly suitable for this use, having 2 structures on it, because it had 2 structures on it. I reviewed historic aerials, the structures have been there since late 30s, early 40s, and in my opinion, will not have any detriment upon the surrounding area or the public, as they do exist there today. The deviations here are the front yard setback, the side yard setback, and the slight increases in coverage. I don't believe there's any reason those particular deviations have a substantial impact upon the use. There's not a substantial intensification here where having the 2 structures and 2 dwellings would be inappropriate. So I think certainly the board can grant the use variance for the expansion, as the expansion provides a lot of benefit with very little impact. Again, the parking does comply. The variances can be granted under the C1 criteria for hardships. We certainly have an undersized lot, very narrow, so you would expect side yard setback variances to be appropriate here. We're not decreasing any of those except for the very slight amount at the corner of the one addition by about 3 inches. And again, that's the portion of the structure that's furthest from the property line. We have appropriate spacing of homes. The distance between the homes on the western side is 7.4 feet, on the eastern side 10.6 feet. That's house to house, disregarding property lines. So we have appropriate spacing of the homes. Nothing is too close to each other. The front yard setbacks, you can see on the aerial that was distributed as part of the package. All the fronts are generally in line. The porches, there's a little bit of change between the homes, but generally everything's at that 17 to 20 foot front setback, which is right in line with. So I think it's certainly appropriate to have that front yard setback. And it's proper to note that the houses on either side are also rather narrow. The house to the west is about the same width as this. It's less than 25 feet wide. The house to the east is less than 40 feet wide. So certainly narrow lots in the area as well. So the side yard setbacks, I think, are certainly appropriate for this area. The application also promotes the purposes of planning. It promotes the general welfare. It promotes a desirable visual environment. I think that's one of the biggest improvements here, as as the architect had indicated. As you come down Briarwood, this is a prominent house and a prominent location. And having a new home here with this type of aesthetic, I think, is certainly an improvement and provides a desirable visual environment compared to the home that exists there today. We're also maintaining the setback and character of the area and cleaning up this prominent house. So I do believe this does promote the purposes of planning as well as hardships. With regard to the negative criteria, I don't believe there's any substantial detriment to the public good from this application. I don't believe there's a substantial impact to air, light, and open space. The homes on both sides are 2 stories. With the surrounding lots, it's not out of character there. The spacing remains the same as with today. There's 2-story homes to the rear of this property. So generally in the neighborhood. I think the home will certainly fit well and not be a detriment to the public good. There's a large driveway there that exists, it's almost 80 feet long, it fits 3 compliant vehicles. In reality, it fits 4, but definition 3. A 3-bedroom house requires 2 parking stalls. Even if you count the rear home as a 1-bedroom or even 2-bedroom home, that only adds 1 additional parking stall by the RSI's calculation. So 3 parking stalls are required for the property. We have 3 compliant stalls. You can actually fit 4 vehicles, a very large driveway. No detriment to the public good from that perspective. Also, no detriment to the zoning plan or the zoning ordinance as a result of this, so I believe the board can grant the variances as required.
Thank you, Mr. Struble.
Thank you.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll open up the board questions.
So, you plan on using the existing foundation?
Yes, but we're gonna have to supplement it in some areas, so, we probably will have some additional interior, but, for the most part, we'll be able to use, the existing foundation, but we will have to supplement it.
Supplement.
So, in other words, right now, a lot of it is, the old,
It's a 100-year-old house.
yeah, like an old cinder block. So, in a lot of those cases, we have to fill it solid. In some places on the inside, we might have some additional piers there, but certainly not enough that we would have said, tear the house down.
Okay.
And it's a crawl space area.
Parking. Explain to me the parking, because it looks like the property line goes down to 7 feet, so that's a compliant spot.
So the driveway, I should say from a depth perspective, the existing driveway down the left-hand side that does extend about 78, 79 feet from the front property line to the rear. That side setback there is 7.2 feet, that is pre-existing.
It's not a compliant spot.
It's not compliant with, that's correct.
It's on your neighbor's property.
What's that?
You'd be parking on your neighbor's property.
If you want to get out the right side door, yes.
So you really only have 1 compliant spot.
I think the ordinance requires a 9-foot line, so this driveway is non-compliant from a width perspective, but it is pre-existing.
You have to ask for parking variance.
We're not expanding the deed, but
You
yes.
gotta ask for parking variance. It's not-
Correct.
If the spot's not compliant, it's council zero, so.
Correct.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Ms. Hager?
Any consideration on taking down the back house and just having a nice backyard? If it's not really being used, there's no heat, there's no air conditioning, anything?
I think the intent is to utilize it as just some bonus space and storage, which is certainly permitted if it's not, they don't intend to use it as a living space, or a sleeping space, or a separate structure, a separate dwelling. I don't believe it has any impact if it remains as a storage in this bonus area.
Will you still end up as a non-compliant with the two dwellings, where if you had a big shed, it wouldn't be? Food for thought. And then the other, where are the downspouts? Where's the water going?
The existing downspouts discharge to grade. The downspout locations won't generally change, they'll be in the same location. There's no expansion of roof area, other than 80 square feet, so the drainage characteristics here really won't change.
And where's it draining to now?
Right now, it drains to grade, and the grade drains to the rear. Everything goes to a low spot in the back of the properties to the south.
The foundations were already talked about the parking. On the plan, it says 39 feet, but over here it says 20 something. Which is it?
With, for what?
On the elevation elevation, max height at the roof ridge says 39.6 feet.
I think that's an elevation, that's an elevation above sea level, not a
Yeah,
dimension.
the grade is at 13 feet, so.
Okay. Just want to make sure it's not, you know.
Yeah, we're not building a 40-foot tall house.
Yeah, nice try.
No, it doesn't look like it, but, you know, because over here it says 26, and over there it says 39.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to clarify that. I agree with Ms. Hayner on the rear house. You are not using it as a rear house. It would, to me, whether it's my place or not, we do not like rear houses anymore. They're grandfathered. It is a so it would sit better with me if you got rid of it. No, so.
Is there a comment?
Yeah, yes, I
Please, go ahead.
we would like to address it, because we talked about this before the really the aspect of the, we'll call it back building, back house, whatever we'll call it, the aspect of the building that makes it, at least definitionally wise, a living space is really the kitchen. Remove the kitchen, there's no living space. And I talked to the client and property owner before the meeting. I said, this may come up. He anticipated it. As I anticipated it did. And we're more than willing to remove the kitchen area. They don't use it for living space, so we'll take out.
And if
There's
the
a stove.
kitchen's out, it would be viewed just as additional storage or.
There's a bathroom in there. I think that's permissible. But other than the bathroom, no heat, no air conditioning. You take out the kitchen and it's not living.
There's no problem removing the kitchen, we'll take that out, that completely eliminates any possibility of using it. The reason that space is so valuable is we have no basement here, we have no storage in the house, bicycles, surfboards, lawn equipment, things like that, we need something. This space exists, it was a garage, a trillion years ago, we can remove the kitchen, that eliminates any chance of it ever being used for anything, but we really do need the storage.
Making it a glorified shed, would it not be less expensive to actually take it down? You've got electric back there, you can put a nice new shed conforming, which I think you could shelve and do for storage, better than trying to use.
Can I interrupt real quick?
You may.
So in the previous application, you had asked about the rear structure being legal, so I looked up this one too. And this one's actually, the rear structure is assessed as a shed. So, yeah, there's no recent inspections of the inside, so and there's no record of a kitchen and a bathroom, but it was assessed as a single-family
And no record of this being a two-family either.
Right, it's property, it's being assessed now as a single-family home with a large shed.
That's what we want.
That's what we need it to be, actually.
So would the plumbing then also come out?
I'll make it a shed, you're not permitted to have plumbing there.
Right. Yeah.
No bathrooms, no kitchens.
All right, hold on, let's try to figure this out. What happened recently with the pool about cabanas, though? Because
We have to have a pool.
I thought you could have a cabana in the pool.
No.
Okay, I stand corrected. If they were putting, if there were to be a pool, not that you're going to have a pool, but if there were to be a pool, they get to keep the bathroom in that.
Only half, that's it.
Yeah, okay.
No kitchen, just
Of course, no kitchen.
no cooking.
Interesting dilemma. I think you guys have to make it a shed. That's what's shown on the books as.
Yeah, a half bath and a shed.
You gotta bring it in.
No, shed,
Nothing.
nothing.
So what do they want to do? They want to take everything out?
And then you can add, go back to permanent. That happens all the time.
I was, my turn, I was going to ask you. So I don't know what that's house over there now, so what's the problem?
This is towards others.
Let's continue with so the rest of the board can raise any concerns that they may have as well, so you hear it in total, and then you could respond back with what you think would be an appropriate modification to what was originally proposed, okay? Mr. Lugan, you done?
I believe I'm done.
Okay, great. Yes, Mr. Almeida.
Some of my questions were addressed, so just lose time with that. Mr. Kashuba, just to confirm the dimensions of that quote-unquote rear structure, 3 feet off the property line, and if it was to be kept or re-sided, then it would be fire rated, or would it have to be fire rated? Does it meet the setback requirements for that?
Correct, it's less than 3 feet on the right side, 0.2 feet, but I believe siding would not change that condition, it's not a structural change.
But it would have to be fire rated?
It's block.
This is concrete block.
I see that the front is concrete block. Do you know if it's concrete block over there now?
I don't know that. What I'll stipulate is we'll follow the code.
Mr. Peterson seems to be shaking his head yes.
I believe it's the old cinder block.
Right, well, the front is, so we're confirming that all 4 sides are cinder
I
block?
believe it is, yes.
Okay.
It is.
It's gonna make an awfully good shed.
The front, the steps that impede into the driveway, that distance from the edge of the driveway to the steps is 8 feet? Or the total width of the driveway is 8 feet in the front?
So the total width of the driveway, it's actually the setback from the building to the property line is 8 feet. That step probably extends 9 to 10 inches into that.
Okay, so Mr. Kashuba, can we get a car beyond the house? As Mr. Peterson's drawing is very detailed there with a nice Tesla in the driveway, can we get a car back there, yes or no?
I mean, I pulled down that driveway, but you don't see the property line on the ground, to be honest with you, probably onto the main driveway.
When the door opens?
Correct.
When the door opens. So if the neighbor puts up a fence, then we're gonna have parking.
That would create some difficulty there.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna have a parking variance.
We have
regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sensitive to the fact that there may be some workarounds that we can do, but basically on the plan, it's gonna have to reflect.
Yeah, I certainly understand. From a variance standpoint, we provide 0 parking stalls, existing and proposed.
Mr. Peterson addressed, you're gonna use the existing foundation, existing framing also, first floor anyway?
For the architect on that?
Yeah, there are some areas on the first floor that we're gonna have to sister up rafters, floor joists. The second floor is the same thing. They're okay, but now is our chance to take care of some of those dips and things like that. You know, the technology with lumber and joists and all that is far different than what it was.
But it sounds like the first floor perimeter framing is generally going to stay on the
Yeah,
window.
yes, first floor perimeter framing is essentially the same, except that now we've got a chance for the strapping and the bracketry and the hold downs and all those things that bring it up.
And at its nearest point, the front lawn proximity to the property line,
At its nearest point, the front yard setback, you're saying?
Side yard.
side yard setback.
The side yard setback at its nearest point on the right-hand side is 6 inches, 0.5 inches.
And then another question, I don't think it's going to end up mattering, but are there separate utilities or anything in the rear, separate water, separate gas, separate electric?
No, there's no separate utility, they all come from the main structure.
And there's going to be no addressing the amount of impervious coverage. There's no proposed change to try to accommodate the impervious coverage.
We're not showing any on the plan currently. There's certainly some opportunity with some of the walkways at the back structure that we could reduce.
No further question.
Just going to approach this situation with the back shed, we'll call it now. If you were to take those windows out and put a garage door there, you then have a garage and a parking place. And in front of that parking place, you could have a second or even maybe a third parking place solving the parking issue. You'd have to take out the concrete on the right side into that shed. But putting in something that's more suitable at maybe those, just a tire tracks pavement, something like that, you wouldn't cover, you would lose, you would gain in impervious coverage, and you would have possibly eliminated the parking issue. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have to defer to the architects about the impacts of the structure, from a perfectly layout perspective. You're probably correct that we have about 40 feet or so from the structure between the two structures, so room for two vehicles there.
And then one inside the garage.
If it's utilized as well.
I think that eliminates your parking requirements. If you guys want to think about that.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I didn't get the curb in for the garage.
Use the driveway, they said it getting car back there. They said they can get it.
I think it's getting out of the car, getting out of the car.
A typical vehicle's 6 to 7 foot in width. The width of the driveway is only half. The added width.
It shows 6.97 inches.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Craig.
My questions were answered, thank you.
Okay, great. And I'm just going to maybe just reiterate some points that had already been brought up, but I'm seeing some pretty bad shape concrete back here in front of that back structure that's on the ground. I mean, I would think if you're making this kind of investment in improving the home, there'd be an intention to make an improvement to the entire property, correct? And by removing much of this concrete and along what Mr. Craig was referring to, you could have some opportunity to maybe spruce that up as well, and the structure to remain, fix it up. I don't know about the idea about making a garage, if that's viable or not. That would help with the parking, or at least make it for better storage area if that was a garage door. We have this conversation all the time. People build a garage, it counts as a parking spot, but then they never use it as a parking spot. Nothing we can do about that, but at least the application would reflect that we're not approving properties that have zero parking.
Yeah.
Right? As a matter of fact, we turned one down 2 meetings ago because no parking was being provided. So, to try to get some relief on parking, or at least on paper, showing as relief on parking would be positive. And again, we're not ignorant to the fact that you may be able to continue to use that non-compliant parking alongside the house. It's highly likely, so that holds me favorable. We're not approving that usage, right? Because we're not authorized to say you can park there, because it's not an authorized parking spot.
So I think Mr. Peterson can address that.
So we can't count that, like we can't count it. You guys can work it out, you can pay off the neighbor, use it, whatever, but we can't count that as legitimate parking. So it appears it's zero. So those are my comments. And then again, I'm some of the other board members said, I'd really love you guys to maybe retain the structure, fix it up, and make it a really nice shed, and remove the bathroom and kitchen. But I did want to say, when you remove the bathroom, maybe you want to somehow at least put on the plan an outdoor shower, so you don't have to come back and see us. Because I would imagine that maybe that might be getting used as a shower now, so you might want to reflect a shower in some fashion.
So, late breaking news. I talked to the clients, and they're completely amenable to just go ahead and convert that back to a garage. They don't use it for anything other than storage back there for the most part. If you noticed in the plan, we have a new half bath as a part of the house, so where people would have used that bathroom back there, they can now use this one. I think we would like to consider an additional 15 square feet or something for an exterior shower back there, because that is only a half bath now on the first floor. So what we would do is keep the same shape, keep the same size, however, put a garage door there where it was many, many, many years ago. Remove the flooring on the inside, turn that into a garage area. We will have some storage with that. Whether or not there will be a car parked there all the time, we're not sure yet. We're gonna have to see how that plays out. But now, as I think a couple of you all mentioned, now we also have a path that we can bring in further in from the property line, maybe make it a couple of tire paths so that it's not some gigantic long driveway, where that would accommodate some legal parking spaces. So we have no problem with that. So remove the kitchen, remove the bathroom, add an exterior shower, and extend the driveway with tire paths back here.
Ted, question on the rear parking. If that does, at least on the plan, show as a garage, right? If that would be one spot, is it legit to park a car in front of that garage even though it's in the backyard to count as 2 spots?
Well, they allow you to expand the driveway 2 feet over each side of the opening of the garage.
Right, but I'm talking about linear, like imagine one car, even though they're probably not gonna put one in, but one car would be in the garage and then one is in front of the garage.
Yeah, that would be legal.
So that would be a legal spot.
Yeah.
If I could ask some clarification from Ted, the driveway strips, when we do those, the center strip still counts as impervious under the ordinance, right?
Correct.
So even if we did strips and made it pervious in the middle, your ordinance counts that as impervious the entire way. So we would certainly do it for the intent.
Just as an
but-
aside, I think when you ask us, like, for things to consider at the end of the year, because I think a lot of residents leave that strip open in the middle, and it's not just for aesthetics, it helps with drainage. But if that's counted as solid surface, then we would be encouraging people to put down full concrete driveways when we would really prefer to encourage them to do two tire paths with having permeable grass or surface in the middle. So for that getting charged as if it were solid surface is probably a mistake. It's not the intended, it's going against what I think the town would prefer by forcing people to count that as non-permeable, impervious. So I think
We have talked about this before.
yeah, and I don't think we addressed it, but I do think, yes, I do think a lot of homeowners, you know, this comes up time and again, I get the question this all the
Yeah,
time.
it happens all the time.
Even also with loose stone, by the way, like loose stone is like it drains. So for that to be counted as if it were concrete, it just doesn't seem right, so. Okay, we hear what you're saying, we're trying to keep up with all of the modifications. Mr. Kenny's gonna have to make sure that gets reflected, but appreciate the movement that you guys are taking. There may be room for 3 cars, depending on the space from the garage door back to where you can have 8 foot wide.
Yeah, we need a total of 40 feet at 9 foot width to be compliant.
The parking spot is 9 by 20.
Yeah, so if he's got 40 feet from the garage door to where it stops becoming 8 feet wide, then he has 2 places out there, one in the garage.
Right.
And how many bedrooms in this house? 3 bedrooms in this
Does he
house?
need 3 spots?
3 would be all required. 4 bedrooms or more is only 3 spots.
That's what I'm saying, you might not need the parking variance now.
Correct.
Okay.
I would ask if speaking to Joe, and we're going into this with the numbers, just increase the request on the impervious from 65.8 to 69, take into account the additional parking we're creating there.
So yeah, but right now the driveway ends at the back of the home, so we have to extend the driveway to the garage. We would offset some of that with that walkway that we would take out, but we would definitely, the benefit is we're creating compliant parking which doesn't exist today. The detriment is we do get a little more impervious to make it work. We would do the strips to offset it, but the numbers under the ordinance would require us to increase the variance.
Count it as impervious. Mr. Craig, and you're coming up with what I think is a good idea. If in fact you could do the math tonight and come up with 3 spots, but out of the safety, you'd probably say
3 spots required, 2 provided, and then you'd want a variance for 1 parking spot. And we all know that the intention might be to still continue to use the lane that goes between the 2 homes, providing there's no objection or fence being put up by the neighbor. But, you know, that would be a lot more amenable than you know, providing 0 spots.
Yeah, and the key there being 0 existing, 2 proposed, where 3 are required.
Right. And is that correct, that 3 are required? I just want to make sure that's valid.
It's a 3-bedroom house, 2 cars.
That's where I'm getting at. Because I think it would say,
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. With the removal of that back structure, we only need 2 parking spots.
We have
One in the garage, one in front of
that's kind of what I was trying to get at, and then I just said 3 were required.
It's only a 3-bedroom home, so
Okay.
3 or 4.
He said 4, so if it's only a 3-bedroom home and 2
Well, even
required.
a 4-bedroom home requires 2.5, and under RSIS standards, that rounds down to 5-bedroom. Yeah, it gets really kind of complicated with
All right.
5 bedrooms needs
I'll
3,
believe you.
4 or less is 2.
I didn't go to school for that.
2 cars and a compound.
Okay, great. Mr. Craig, are you done? Okay.
All the
Okay, all good. All right, that was a very useful conversation, I'd say. Okay, so we're going to close the board comments and open up the public comments and/or questions. If there's anyone here to speak on this application, please raise your hand, and we'll ask you to come up to the microphone. Seeing no one raise their hand, we'll close the public session. And I want to go right to board comments, but before we did that, Mr. Kennedy, I just want to see if you've been keeping up.
I have. And can I just make one suggestion as to how, you know, put it out there. Sometimes it's difficult on the applicants to sometimes make on the fly.
Decisions on the fly. Right.
Decisions.
And calculations.
And calculations and things like that. Obviously, they've made some relatively big concessions, and obviously, it sounds like there's an inclination to approve it with the conditions. So we can do a couple of things. You could either, if you were so inclined to approve it with all these conditions, sometimes board members say, oh, I would like to sort of see some of the details first. Sometimes the applicant gets a little nervous about committing to things when they haven't seen it and talked outside of the pressure of all eyes looking on them. So we could either, depending on what the board pleasure is and what the applicant's pleasure is, you could approve it tonight with those conditions. It's, you know, that might be some issues. Or you could continue the hearing and come back and look at it and then vote on it. Or you could continue the hearing and direct me to have a resolution prepared. So if they come back and you see the plans and they're happy, we would, and if you approved it at the next hearing, you could adopt a resolution that same night. So there would be no real functional delay to the applicants. Again, that just depends on what you want, what the applicant wants, and those are just some things for thought.
We're comfortable to move forward to that. The changes are not making, other than the garage doors replaced, and putting the parking in front of this.
If the board's comfortable with that, we can do that.
All right, I'm glad that you went through that. Anyone on board not comfortable with proceeding?
The only thing I'd ask is, Mr. Peterson, you're gonna design the garage.
I'm sorry, what's that?
You're gonna do the design work on the garage?
Yes.
If it near matches the house, I'm good with it, because it's a beautiful house.
Oh, thank you. Well,
It's
have
not gonna
some of the
match.
finishes, we probably won't have as much in the way of bracketry.
Gotcha.
Heavy trim, as much as I'll try to sell that, metal roofs, I probably won't get away with that. But in terms of siding and style.
Siding and color and stuff like that is gonna match with this.
So, before we go to board comments, Mr. Kennedy, I just have one thing that I'd like to just have a conversation around. We need to be clear that if this driveway here, someone said, well, what if a fence got put up, okay? And if a fence does get put up, which means that now a car can't get back there, right? We're not approving the use access, if it can't be, there's no, it's not as if the applicant can go to the next door homeowner and say, the board said we could use that space to come in and out, or we could use that space as parking spots, or I can use it to get to my garage in the back. We are not saying that.
Correct. To your point, we as a zoning board have absolutely no authority to grant this applicant or any applicant the ability to use property that is not owned by the applicant.
That's
That
right.
would be an easement, you can't.
And I just want to make sure that
Yes.
the resolution
Absolutely.
reflects the fact that we are not in any way, shape, or form agreeing that access that's necessary to get to the backyard and get to the garage with a vehicle, if it requires them to go on the neighbor's property, we're not approving.
Correct.
That's not within our.
It's not within our jurisdiction.
Right, but it appears that you can get a car there. I mean, it sounds to me like it's the getting in and out that's the issue, but getting a car back there, you'd be able to keep your tires on your property.
100%.
It sounds that way to me.
Yes.
That's our understanding.
Right, okay.
Can I bring up one, please?
Yeah, before we go.
Totally flustering. Over here on the plan, you've got property line as per adjoining deed for lot 6, which is what you're showing is usable. Property line as per literal interpretation of the deed for lot 7 actually goes out several feet. So in your deed, you're saying you've got plenty of room over there for 10 and 12 feet.
Correct. From a title perspective, we weren't sure.
So
The
nobody-
surveyor's not sure whose ownership is.
Right, so it would be a court battle before somebody could put, the other guy could actually put the fence up on
Correct.
that line.
Well, yes, we would have the right to contest a fence in that way.
Okay, so by your deed, you have plenty of parking right there.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, understood. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. That's a good point. Okay, so with that, we're going to open up to board comments now. Mr. O'Neill. Comments?
Just thank you for the considerations.
Same thing.
Mr. Wu, you, okay? Mr. O'Neill.
The proximity to the house to the property line is a deterrent to me, unfortunately. And as much as I can appreciate Mr. Peterson's architectural appeal on the rendering, I think an interior garage is probably better suited on the property to truly accommodate the car park. So unfortunately, I probably would not be in favor of this application.
That's great.
I intend on voting for it.
Okay. Ms. Rizzo?
Thank you for the consideration about the shed. I would be in favor.
And my comment would be, when a 23.5-foot lot got cut in this town or on this property, it creates a certain hardship for the future owners to be able to do anything with the property other than leave it as is, which would mean, a 100-year-old or 80-year-old dilapidated house that would never get modified. In fact, it's pretty amazing that you could get a car back there. My assumption would be, Mr. Almeida, that the neighbor had a problem with what was happening here with it being 6 inches on that property line. I would imagine that they would be here and they'd be objecting to it tonight. And I don't hear any objection coming forward. So with that, I would be in favor of the modifications that the applicant seems to have agreed to in this application. So with that, Mr. Kennedy.
Sure, we've got a lot.
Here.
So, let's see. The standard conditions are compliance with all the promises, commitments, and representations made tonight. And as we know, that's always our get out of jail free card, and it's probably never been more important than it is tonight. We have a lot of conditions. So we have the 24-month time frame. We have the affordable housing obligation contributions if that's required. Obtaining any necessary outside approvals if the application materially changes the result of those outside approvals need to come back. Ultimately, we'll have a professional certification that the improvement is installed in accordance with the approved plans and testimony and the resolution. Grading and drainage details to be reviewed and approved by the borough engineer. some of the things, I'll just start off by saying, when we came in here, we were coming in under the premise that was an expansion of non-conforming use. And that's a use variance, remember that requires 5 affirmative yes votes. So, Tim, if the nature of the application has changed and there is no longer an expansion of a non-conforming use, Tim and Joe, is your opinion that we do not need a use variance?
Mr. Attorney, I'll object to that because, as Mr. Almeida brought up, the 6 inches on the non-driveway side of the house and putting on a second floor on that is expansion of non-conforming use right there.
Oh, well, our position is by eliminating the garage, it's no longer non-conforming use.
No,
It's one single family.
You're not conforming
We still need-
6 inches from the property line.
We still need variances, but we don't need a use variance.
That's what I'm used to.
If they were expanded, because if we came in with the premise that there's 2 dwelling units on one
All
lot,
right. I understand.
we'll still get that.
I understand. But
So-
it's still expansion of it's,
The non-conformity for the use tonight, I pointed out a little bit this in my opening, was we had what I call the back house and the front house.
right,
We only allowed one house.
right.
So because you had 2, we allowed 1 as a non-conforming use. Because we're expanding the front house under the law, we're D2 variance, we're expanding a non-conforming use. By eliminating the back house,
Right.
we now have 1 house which is gone as part of this application.
And it's just a straight variance.
Straight
Correct.
Okay. Got it.
So we'll clarify that, and we also have, let's see, confirmation that the house is gonna look like the rendering that was marked into evidence. Different, perhaps different siding as Tom had indicated. And, let's see, I had here about putting new siding on the back, but we'll come back to that in a moment. And we're going to, we said, Tom, you said we just added area up above. That was in the back structure?
Yes.
Front.
Well, back in, there's no second half story or anything, either way.
Okay. And we were going to, or Mr. Koski, we're going to revise the plan so as to just correct the, what the proposed coverage was going to be. And then we have, I guess just, and I think this happens anyway, but we'll just, once the resolution is adopted, do we get it to the tax assessor or?
Yes.
Okay, so that's, and let's see, we're going to have the modification for the potential parking variance, we'll come back to that. And we're also going to have the, let's see, again, Mr. Chairman, to your point, no authority to use others' property. And we were going to talk about revising the plans, and so as to portray and confirm that to the extent there ever was a belief that that back structure was in any way a type of dwelling unit, it is not a dwelling unit, and typically we would have a deed restriction to that effect, just saying that the applicants are knowingly, voluntarily abandoning any potential claim to that they have. And we're going to convert it, again, this is not going to be as eloquent as I would, not that I'm ever eloquent, but I'm going to be less eloquent than normal. You're going to keep the back structure, put on a garage door, and we're going to remove the kitchen, remove the bathroom. It's not going to be a dwelling unit. And I think there was a request to increase the impervious coverage to 69% to allow for the extended driveway so as to create compliant parking, which doesn't exist today. The garage is going to match the home in terms of siding and style and color. I think Mr. Drake is what you had. And let's see. Oh, I wrote here, Tom, if you wouldn't help me out, if you could in the next couple of days, just send me a better written description of exactly what it is, you're doing in terms of some of these conditions. I'll
Oh, sure.
incorporate it into
Yeah, I think the big thing is the garage. And Kevin, the only other thing to within what's gonna be the garage, we want to consider a shower, just an outdoor shower, no toilet, no sink, within the footprint of that, but a shower out there, because, as I mentioned, the new bathroom on the first floor in the house is only a half bath, so there's no ground floor shower facility.
So, and I think, thank you, and I think we talked about the deed restriction on the abandonment of the bath structure being even argued that it's a dwelling unit. So I've got some work to do, but that was the gist of the conditions. Are those acceptable, Tim, to you and your client?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Chairman, if that's acceptable to the board, we can vote on that.
If a board member wants to make a motion to approve the application? I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, Ms. Brazil?
Yes.
Mr. Gregg?
Yes.
Mr. Almeida?
No.
Mr. Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mr. Lubin?
Yes.
Ms. Hayner?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Back to the reception.
Reconvene at 8:15, okay?
And plus now this side of the house.
We're back on the record.
Okay.
Take roll call again real quick.
Yep.
Ms. Brazil? Here. Mr. Gregg?
Here.
Mr. Almeida?
I'm still
Mr.
here.
Fitzgerald?
Here.
Mr. Lubin?
Still.
Ms. Hayner? Here. Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
All right, the next application is Ken and Annabelle Thorne, 508 13th Avenue. First up, is there anyone here who had any questions or comments regarding the sufficiency of the notice they received? All right, we don't see any. Let the record reflect the board secretary and I reviewed the notice and found everything to be in order. So it would be my opinion that we have jurisdiction to proceed tonight. And for the final time tonight, we're going to swear in Ted Bianchi, our construction official and zoning officer. Ted, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide any, will be the truth to the best of your knowledge to help you God? Thank you. And we will mark into the record what we as a board have before us. A1 is the development application package dated August 2nd, 2024. A2 is the Borough of Belmar application checklist. A3 is the minor land use zoning permit, and that is dated June 11, 2024. That's all, actually. And dated /June 22nd, 2004. And then A4 is going to be the architectural floor plans and elevations, and it's dated August 4th, 2024, consisting of 4 sheets. And it's prepared by Paul Amochetto, architect. And I think that's it. So why don't you introduce yourself and we'll swear everybody in.
Good evening, I'm Paul Amochetto, architect, with offices at 917 Main Street, Belmar, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Good evening, Annabella Thorne. My husband, Ken Thorne, and I just purchased this home in December of this past year.
Okay, very good. So we'll swear you in. If you could both raise your right hands. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I'll swear you in.
Ken Thorne.
Ken Thorne. All right, do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, to help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, and Mr. Alchanko, if you don't mind, and Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, can I just have a seat? Can I just get some basic information out of the way?
Sure.
So, Ms. Thorne, you and your husband are the owners of the property, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long have you owned it, roughly?
Since December 2024.
Or December of 2023? Got it. And there's, my understanding is that there's 2 dwelling units on the property?
Yes.
Okay, a front and a rear structure?
Yes.
Okay, and people might be doing some homework right now, but just for the front structure, is it a single-family home?
Yes.
Okay, and it's 1.5 stories?
Yes.
And how many bedrooms?
3.
And how many bathrooms?
2.
And is that occupied?
Yes.
Okay. And do you live there, or?
No, not.
Okay.
We still own our previous.
Okay, so it's leased to a tenant?
No, actually, we're not renting it, we use it.
Okay.
In the summer.
That's
We're- yeah.
second home?
Yeah, our plans are to renovate and then sell
Okay.
our house and move here.
Perfect. And then with the rear structure, that's a single-family structure, so to speak?
Yes.
And,
A cottage with a garage with an attached cottage.
okay, and it's 1.5 stories?
No, it's one
Yeah,
story.
1 story? And how many bedrooms?
Just
One.
one.
And how many bathrooms?
One.
And is that rear structure occupied?
No.
So it's vacant. Okay. Thank you. So if you can just, however you want to proceed with telling the board about your proposal.
I'd like Mrs. Thorne basically to describe their plans for the home and the reasons for the expansion,
Okay.
please.
Yes, so we've been a lifelong vacationer of Belmar and always dreamed of living here eventually. I have 3 older sons. They recently graduated high school, so our plans are to move down here after we renovate this house to sell our home back in Huntington County and then move down here. So the house in the front is where we'll be living, and right now it's just a 2-bedroom with a loft. So we really wanted first floor living. Right now we have a 3-floor house where we've been for 26 years. So we really want to get away from that 3 floors going up and down, and want everything to be on 1 floor because it's going to be our permanent home, hopefully for the rest of our days. And then we like our 3 older sons to be able to come and visit and use the rear cottage, and I live for them and their families when we get married.
Good, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mrs. Thorne?
Not a question yet until we hear a presentation on what we're trying to do.
Okay. Good evening. The Thorns asked me to modify an existing house. Obviously, they purchased the apartment or the living unit in the back with an attached garage, which is an older structure. We intend to renovate that, but we have a proposal before the board tonight to rebuild it. But primarily, a focus on the main house. We'll have a front porch, a second floor open porch, and a 3rd floor deck from a loft and a recreation area. The living space consists of a foyer, the first floor bedroom. The Thorns have an 85-year-old mom planning on visiting and some stayovers. A dining area, family area, and a kitchen area. The second floor will consist of 4 bedrooms and 2 baths and a laundry area. And the loft area will consist of 500 square feet of open family area with a deck to the north and a deck to the rear, or the deck to the south. Tonight we're seeking variances for, obviously, the 2-family residences. We have an increase of our FAR to 56%. We're requesting a variance for building coverage to 32%, and we're requesting a variance for a combined side yard of 14 feet. The existing residence, the main residence, the existing wall to the west side is 9 feet off of the property line. So we're basically including that within our development. We do have a projection of 1.5 feet on the second floor, of about 12 square feet, where a bathroom projects, and the reason for that architecturally is that because we have a long wall here, we wanted to break that up with some detail and articulate that wall, so it wasn't just a blank wall. Our proposal for the rear cottage, basically it's very close to the side yards, very close to the rear yard, and very close to the existing westerly property line. Our proposal basically is to reproduce that structure as a new structure and to eliminate those side yard and rear yard setbacks and create some flow around the structure for light and air and also for fire purposes and safety. The structure currently is the rear home is 656 square feet. Exactly, we are reducing that by 25 square feet and adding that to a garage that will be 400 square feet.
I'm sorry, what will be 400 square feet, the garage?
The garage, yes. It's currently 375. And basically the reason for it would be storage for bikes, surfboards, things like that, after we have a car parked in there. And the structure that we're proposing would be reconstructed in kind, exactly with the configuration, the height, the sizes, and all that, except for the 25 square foot that I mentioned. And we have an opportunity basically to build that according to current code, with proper fire ratings, things like that. We'll create a firewall between the garage and the existing and the new cottage. This is you can see in the upper right-hand corner on the Z1 a photograph of the existing structure. We're basically duplicating that, except for an increase in the hip roof as it attaches to the garage. The garage will be 18 feet high with storage above. And the basic configuration of the apartment will be modified somewhat. The existing bedroom currently is to the east side. Currently the kitchen is to the rear, very close to the neighbor. And we're proposing to move the kitchen up for light and air in the morning and a living area towards the rear. That's basically it.
Mr. Amelchenko, I just have a question for you, because you made a statement and then you said something and it seemed to not be consistent with the statement that you said.
Okay.
You indicated that you would make the rear structure smaller to allow light and air so you could go around the property and so forth. And then you said you're basically going to build it the same as what's there. So I wasn't really sure what you were getting at, because it can't be the same if you're going to bring it into compliance.
The living unit would be 25 square feet less area than it currently is.
Right, but what about the footprint itself?
The footprint itself will be reproduced in kind, exactly as it is now.
How could that be when you're showing on this drawing, you're showing 3 feet on each side and 5 feet to the rear? And where it is now, on the existing, it's showing clearly less than 3 feet on the one side. I can't even get a measurement on that side, but it certainly doesn't look like it's where it is now.
We're taking square footage out of the garage. I'm squeezing that. It's currently 15.5 feet wide. We're going to reduce that to 13 feet wide, and we're reducing the cottage by a couple feet so I can achieve a 3-foot setback on either
So
side.
it will be changed.
And knock it down and build it.
Well, it would be modified somewhat, yes.
Because you said it wasn't gonna change, so.
Well, the basic
Okay,
configuration.
all right, so, all right, settled.
I'm sorry.
You're changing it, it's going away, and you want to put a brand new.
Yes,
Okay. There's only 3 feet on the side, to the side, and where 5 feet side setback would be needed.
yeah, well, I can't achieve 5 feet, on this side.
It's a house.
Yeah,
It's still 3 feet, even if it's used as
Yeah,
residential.
it's a rear yard.
And it's on the books as a 2-family? Okay, thank you. Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt, I was confused.
No, I'm sorry, I was confusing.
Because
Okay.
you are actually changing the location and size of the footprint.
Yes, we're reconfiguring that so that we can
Right.
achieve those side yard setbacks and the rear yard
I
setback.
got you, okay.
We've reduced the current site, I don't, if you've had an opportunity to look, it's basically a sea of macadam back here. We're tearing all that out using pervious pavers. We have more than enough room for parking.
Okay. Any more?
No, I've completed my presentation.
Okay, we'll open up to board questions. We'll start with you, Mr. O'Neill, if it's okay, if you're ready.
Yeah, sure.
Or would you like me to start on the other end?
Yeah, the height of the garage, I mean, that looks like high. Like, if you look at the peak part and then the gable end, is that all storage space up there?
Yes, the top of this is
To
18.
the right of that?
Here, or
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
Oh, this is the roof of the cottage. And it's just attic space.
Just attic space.
Pardon me, have a pull-down stair. That's it, no living space whatsoever, no stairs.
Okay, that was one question.
The existing roof height is 14 feet on the existing cottage. We're proposing 15 and a half feet, a small increase here. I mean, I could lower that also to the original.
Like you said, you're not impacting airflow and everything, but the size of that whole roof going across like that, it's just huge to me for a
Well,
garage. I mean,
this is the size, this is the size of the existing roof, except it's a gable roof.
Yeah, but it's single story, this is 2-story. All the way across, pretty much.
It's not
18
2-story.
feet all the way
We're not-
across.
Pardon me?
It's 18 feet from the peak of the garage to the other end.
This is an 18 feet here, this is 15
17
and
and
a
a half.
half. 15 and a half, and this is 14.
Okay. All right. That's all I got.
Well, I mean, we could reduce it back to the original 14 feet entirely. It was just meant for extra storage because they don't have any storage in the floor plan in this house. So we were proposing a pull-down stair just so they could get up there and put Christmas decorations or something up there.
That's all I got.
And how many bedrooms and bathrooms in the cottage?
One bed, one bath,
This one?
yes.
On Ted's denial, number one is expanding of a non-conforming use, adding an apartment over the garage. Is this changed since this was written?
Yes, we originally had submitted to Ted a proposal where we were going to take the cottage and build it over the garage. And then he pointed that out, and we got the denial, so we decided to stay with the original cottage on the one level.
So you're, okay, because number two on Ted's denial was you were proposing 20 feet, so you also went back down
Yes.
to the 18.
So 1 and 2 are needed.
Right, okay.
once you tear it down, you lose it.
Or you come here for the.
You come here for a variance.
Okay,
Use
so we
variance.
can give
That
the
would be a use
variance to
variance,
do this.
Pardon me?
We can give a variance to tear it down and rebuild it slightly different. Is that what you said?
Well, once you tear it down, you know, it would have to conform to the ordinance.
Which is what he's, but,
Variance approval.
yeah, but by moving it and 3-footing on either side and all of that, then you're getting the different variance. My question is very simple, I think. You can tear it down in that variance that we're issuing and put it back again, because you already have it,
If you give the variance.
if we give the
If
variance.
you use a variance.
Okay.
We actually had discussed this at a prior meeting a couple months ago with a different application where we were a foot and a half off the property line, and we were talking about the foundation and all that, where we could basically rebuild the house and accommodate a larger setback on the side. So our proposal was based on that thinking that we might be able to eliminate some of these real tight conditions, like I think like 1.6 feet,
Right.
something like that. Another one is 2.1 feet, you know, in the setbacks.
I have no, because the main house, not a problem, but it all becomes a problem up here when we're talking about the cottage or back house.
I totally understand, yeah, I mean, I don't mean to come out of left field with this, it's just that we thought that for life and safety and all that, that it would be a better application.
Okay.
And we can bring the cottage up to code. Right now, the roof structure has to be rebuilt, which we're permitted to do, as it is.
But this is the first time somebody's, in my recollection, saying, take it down and put it back better. And so while that is a plus, I just wanted to make sure that once you take it down, we are allowed to give that variance, which we are. Okay?
Yes.
So I'm good now.
I hate to be the first one.
You won't be. Lot going on, Paul Nice Drawings.
Thank you.
It's a nice looking house. Question for Ted. Ted, standard one-car garage in town, what is the height of that? What is the permissible height for a
18 on the garage.
18, and the rear dwelling there is 18?
No, the rear dwelling right now is 15 and a half feet.
And a garage can be 18?
Yes.
And then the space above the garage there is what, pull down attic?
We have a couple, yeah, we have a couple dormers here.
That
We'll
is-
actually have a set of stairs toward the back of the garage where we can access the storage above, like that. But we have two dormers here, maybe it's make it look a little larger, we can set back. And like I said, we can reduce the size of the roof, or the height of the roof.
The storage above the garage is the whole length of the garage there?
No, it's about 3/4 of the garage.
3/4 because of the stairwell that you're proposing to go up.
Correct. They're shown here, Mr. Almeida.
Got it. That's what I was looking at. Those are the dormers there?
Pardon?
Dormers?
Yes.
Okay. Crawl space for the rear, is that what it's gonna be built on?
Oh, yes, yes.
And existing is a slab?
Existing is a slab.
It is separate utilities, separate gas, separate water, separate electric, separate
Yes.
sewer?
Yes.
And then proposing, I guess, underground utilities to get to the rear of the house?
Yes.
And your reason for knocking it down, is it the condition of it, or is it to try to eliminate variances?
Well,
I'm sorry for just focusing on the rear, because the front house is lovely, but.
No, it's a combination of both. Speaking with Kenny, talked about it would be nice to be able to rebuild it new, you know, to code, things like that, rather than taking pieces apart, insulation and rewiring and all that.
That's why I wrote it down, I might have to circle back.
and a half? And you're proposing a
one.
three-story house?
No, one and a half. The front.
Oh, the existing 1.5 stories.
Existing is 1.5, and what you're proposing is full 3 stories?
Is
No, it has a loft on the third floor that would be 500 square feet.
Oh, that's a half story, those 2.5 story houses?
Yes.
Okay. I just thought I had heard that it was 3 stories.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I got.
I don't have any questions. No comments. I don't have any questions.
Okay, and I'm kind of in the same camp as Mr. Lubin, where I don't recall an application where a rear house has been torn down and fully rebuilt. But I'm torn between saying just renovate what you have there or tear it down and bring it into compliance as you're suggesting. So, talking out loud here, I don't have any questions. I do have a question. Are you certain about these lot coverages? Because it does seem to be a lot of, so you're going to eliminate some, what is currently paved asphalt and put lawn in its place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it did seem to be the lot seemed to have a lot of patio and asphalt coverage on it with very little permeable surfaces anywhere.
All the calculations I did myself, they're all accurate.
Okay. And so everything going in is going to be permeable, and you took a 50% credit on those?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have any further questions. So with that, anyone here from the public? Yes. Get you sworn in.
Hello, just state your name and address.
Representing owner of 514 13th Avenue.
So we'll just swear you in. Do you swear that the information and testimony you're about to provide, to the extent you provide, will be the truth, the best of your knowledge, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. My concern is your coverage, and I know you talked about how much grass you have so little now. Is it going to be enough that you'll have to have somebody come and cut it for you, or are we looking at that small plot like in the front and in the back?
I think
I don't have the plans.
Yeah.
I mean, I did go to look at them, but the table was a little small, so I couldn't stretch them out.
so. The front setback, the front property size would remain the same. The backyard was paved,
The whole thing's
the whole,
except right over.
the whole thing was paved. We love grass, so we would take out as much of that blacktop as necessary, so we have more grass than anything. That driveway was paved like that when we purchased the place, and I believe that was an issue with something they had where they had to tear up the existing driveway. So they removed the existing driveway, and then they repaved the entire property. So it's a little bit of grass in front of the cottage, and then they did that stone area with the pavers behind the immediate house. So the answer would be getting rid of as much blacktop as possible. And I think if you look at the drawing from Ted, or from Paul, you'll see how much is grass where the driveway will remain.
I think the house is great, and I'm very happy to see improvements in the
Of course,
area.
yeah.
But to the board, 2 blocks away is a flag lot with 3 buildings on it. If all of them to the east of you,
Okay.
right, there's a house on a very small lot.
Please address the board with your comments. This is in
Okay,
a
sorry.
meeting with you two.
So,
Right, so this is the one house.
so by allowing them to tear down a house, just imagine if these other people come and ask for the same thing because their houses are old, and then it's going to be kind of a policing issue on how you control that they're building the same thing. And so I'm concerned about tearing it down and putting it back up. I appreciate old, but I live in a over 100-year-old house, and renovation is possible. So I hope you kept that in
consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here from the public on this application? No? Okay, with that, we'll go back to the board for.
For me, okay, the front house I'm fine with, the back I'm not so fine with. I'd rather see a two-car garage or something back there than knock them down and rebuilding a cottage. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Ms. Hayman?
I agree with Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, Ms. Hayman.
Exactly the same, why I asked the question before. One, you know, many of us, I don't, but many of us have rear houses. They're good income in some cases, they're family in some cases, but I question again, and each is used. Each of our applications stand upon themselves, so there's no, if you tear it down, allowing the next guy to tear it down, because they do stand alone. But I am concerned about that. That's it.
Okay. Mr. Amin?
Paul, you don't mind, do you, Paul?
No, not at all.
Thank you, appreciate that. The existing house, just one more time, I just want to make sure for my notes, the front main dwelling is 3 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Correct.
And you're proposing
5 bedroom,
5 bedrooms
4 bath.
plus the loft, family, right, plus the loft?
Yes.
4 full baths?
Yes.
4 full. And then the rear cottage is to remain 1 and 1?
That's correct.
Pre-existing. All right, and then just for the driveway calculations, because I overheard the homeowner, all of the asphalt is coming out and being replaced with permeable pavement.
That's correct.
All of it?
Every bit of it.
Every bit. All right.
Including the patio, by the way.
Yeah. I don't see the need, comment on, I don't see the need to knock the rear dwelling down. I see the need to fire rate it and bring it as much to conforming as possible.
We're more than willing to do that.
And personally, myself, I'm not a fan of the loft area above the garage, even though it's not a loft, it's unhabitable space, but I prefer to see a continuous roof, kind of uniformity to a standard rear structural or standard garage. I'm open personally to either renovate the existing structure or remove and replace without the loft. Is my opinion for storage area.
Would it be acceptable to have a pull-down stair in the garage for access, something like that?
The height of the roof then, just go for, this is Tony's opinion, not that of the board. The height of the roof for the rear structure is 15 feet straight across at its highest point.
15 and a half, yes.
15 and a half.
Yeah.
The garage can go 18.
Yeah. I could reduce the height of the
If
cottage.
a garage can go 18, then I personally don't have a problem with 15 and a half. You know, I think because when you put your rendering up, it looks like a giant ranch, but it's 655 square feet of living space. What's the total square footage of the whole show there, garage and?
The garage is 400 square feet, and
1,100 square feet, Paul, plus or minus,
right,
right?
I'm sorry, standing in the garage, 400 square feet.
and the cottage currently is 656 square feet. Pardon me, currently the garage is 375 square feet, and the cottage is 656 square feet.
So 1,000 square feet,
Yeah.
plus
Yeah.
or minus, or Mr. Kenny, do you need the exact, I'm sorry?
We'll get, so I'm just saying, 375 square feet is the garage
Yes,
existing.
and 656 is the cottage.
Thank you.
Okay. So in total, garage and habitable area is 1,000 square feet.
Correct.
Yeah. So those are my comments. Personally myself, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, I'm more
We're more than willing to renovate the existing structure
That's,
as is.
those are my comments.
Great. I didn't have any questions till just now. You guys were turned down on the back structure for being 20.6 feet. That's been changed now to 15?
Yes, sir. We originally had proposed to Ted an apartment above the garage.
Oh.
And that's where the height came from and all that. We've eliminated that.
Okay. As far as my comments go, I kind of like the idea of taking the whole thing down and bringing it into compliance with side yard and backyard and all that. And I understand how much nicer it is to work in a brand new structure than it is to work in a renovated structure. So I'm kind of in favor of it. So my intention is to vote for the project.
I'm sorry, I disagree. I kind of like to see us adhere to the master plan if we can, and we have an opportunity now to adhere to the master plan. We don't need, this is a 5-bedroom house. This is not a small home. This is a large home. And I don't see the need for the rear structure at all, personally. So I certainly understand why you need a garage where you need some storage, but that's a 5-bedroom house with 4 bathrooms in it.
It's on an oversized property as well.
I understand. I understand. I understand. That was my comment.
Thank you. And as for myself, I do believe that you've got plenty of space to design the front house to accommodate all of your needs without necessarily having to rebuild the whole cottage. I prefer to see that to be a garage with a workshop or something like that in the back as opposed to it being the second dwelling. I think to build this big in front and then completely rebuild brand new in the back is probably going too far in terms of, there's nothing being given back here and the hardship isn't being proven as to needing to knock down that rear structure. So I would not be in favor of what's being proposed here. Front house,
Not
I'm
be in
fine.
favor of knocking it down, or?
I probably would be of like mine where Mr. Almeida was, where retaining what's there is probably less problematic than completely knocking it down and building brand new.
Then that'll be our proposal then.
I don't change it on my say-so alone. We've got 7 members up here and everybody has an opinion, and I don't know if that concession would be acceptable to the rest of the members. Okay, but I would be more in favor of doing that than completely knocking down. And even with that, I'm still torn about this whole back house thing because I agree with Ms. Brazell. The only mitigating thing that I have here is that you have 166 feet of depth, right? If this is 100-foot depth, I'd be absolutely hard no. With 166 feet of depth, I'm probably a little more open-minded toward the rear structure. So that's where I stand on it.
Thank you.
So with that, I think, you have to counsel with your clients. You've heard from the board already, you would need 5 out of 7 affirmative votes. The way that this works, and again, I think it was just the last meeting we had this conversation, or maybe the one before, but regardless, if you go to a vote and it gets turned down, you've got to come back and refile, and it's got to be significantly different where if you abstain or if you defer on a vote, you can come back with modifications without having to start the whole process over again.
Well, I think I can speak for my clients when I say we are permitted basically to make some structural modifications or improvements to the structure as it is now. And that would be our proposal.
You're talking about the rear structure?
Yes, sir.
I think the original plan to rebuild the back cottage was because on the east side, it's only a 17-inch clearance between the existing structure and the property line. And on the west side, it's only like 22 inches. So I think the idea of redoing the existing, it would be making it smaller to meet the 5-foot setback in the back and 3 foot on the north and west side. That was the idea.
I know, but as
So we could rebuild it.
Mr. Bianchi said though, once the decision's made to knock it down, putting it back becomes an issue, a different issue than simple renovation.
No, and I
So-
think we would have been okay with, we discussed it was okay to renovate what was there. We just thought it was better to, if we rebuilt the existing foundation, it would then comply with what is,
We thought it would appeal to the board because of the setbacks.
Well, again,
That's-
you know,
that was the reason.
I'm
Just to make it
equal to
better.
the rest. Don't, you're not changing, you're not convincing me. There's 7 members here.
Oh, yeah, no,
You
I
need
just,
5
I wanted
people.
to just set that
You need
understanding.
5 people to concur whether it's putting the new structure there or renovating the old structure. And I think, you know, board members have expressed their opinions. So I think you guys need to now make a decision on, you know, what you'd like to do.
Well, we have, we'll stay with our original concept and basically just renovate the existing building as it is.
But
I have a question.
But again, I don't know whether or not that's going to shift anybody's up here's opinion.
I don't either, but
Yeah, please.
In the bounds of.
May I ask a
Sure.
question?
I don't think that you know the answer to that. Yeah, sure.
So, we have a third choice. We can say, we're not allowing for the first structure if you intend to renovate that rear structure, correct?
Right.
That's right. Okay, I want to
Yes.
make sure. Thank you.
Right, it's an expansion of a non-conforming use, it's a use variance, so yes.
So it's not a replacement or renovate, it's,
They still need variance for these,
correct.
yes.
That's right. Okay.
So in Randy's vein, my question, and it's a harsh question, in the way the town is going with rear houses, and you're putting up a 4,000 square foot home, it is an oversized lot. You don't need the extra storage. Do you need the rental from that cottage? Would you be willing to redeed to a single-family home? And yes, you can have the garage back there, but eliminate that cottage and go to, and get rid of that pre-existing of a two-family. That's my question.
So getting rid of the rental
Yes.
designation, so we could still have the cottage.
No.
Just,
No, get rid of the cottage and have a garage.
See, you have a lot that is a two-family lot. So you have 2 structures that you can rent, put mom back there, have a fight and go back there, whatever. But you have 2 residences. The town, the borough in general, with the master plan, is no more. So they're grandfathered. You are grandfathered. It can stay. If you do nothing to it, it can stay. If you fix it, you need our variance. But my question is very blunt. Would you be willing to get rid of and change your deed with that 4,000 square foot home? Yes, it's a large lot. I think I said that before. And you can have probably 2-car garage back there, up to 18 feet, but no residence.
their concept basically was to renovate the cottage first, create the cottage so that they could live in the cottage and enjoy the year while they were working on the house. And then the cottage would become room for the kids and the family.
Or a rental.
Not
We
necessarily.
We actually assumed when we purchased the house, we assumed a renter, but we no longer have that rental because we really want our privacy.
But we can't limit that.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, we
we
were
had a
not.
renter in there, and once we had the renter.
Eliminate?
I think so.
Can we eliminate the rental consideration in our application?
No, and the future owner wouldn't have that restriction either. You'd have to abandon two-family use.
Yes, what, sir?
As long as it remains a two-family use, you
You can't offer a deed restriction.
and And whatever you guys promise some future owner, and I know you'll say you'll never intend to sell it, but some future owner could take it and rent it.
So if we gave up the rental
You can abandon
and
the
then we
rental.
could sell the property, somebody could always go back and
No.
rent that property?
No.
Oh, no, they couldn't. Oh.
You can abandon the rental on your lot, period.
The second dwelling.
The second
The
dwelling.
second, doesn't mean it's a rent, right?
You can abandon the second dwelling on your unit, that's what we're.
That's what we're,
Get rid of the cottage.
Oh, all right, so we can't keep the cottage
Correct.
and get rid of the rental?
No.
now, you could live in the cottage as is while the new house is being
No.
built.
No,
Why?
because you may not get approval for the new house.
Well, we can give it contingently. Good.
And then they could knock it down.
And then it comes down after.
Okay,
Yeah, we've done
Yeah, is that right?
okay.
Well, I'm not gonna get approval from the house.
This one, what's the square foot?
I mean, you guys, I totally disagree with the carry. The ask on the building coverage is 31%, where 50 is permitted, that includes both dwellings. So I don't give a shit if it's a 8,000 square foot house. It's 31% on 50.
That's right, there's 70 votes.
So everybody has their opinion. You shouldn't be speaking on behalf of the whole board. Well, you use the term "we" a lot. We don't like back houses necessarily, some of us do. And we had 1,200, and now we're down to 250. I think you'd have to review that, because I've read it, and there are contingencies in there for.
Is there any space?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you want more time to think about it, you can ask to carry the application to the next meeting to give yourself
The building
time to
coverage
think
is
about it more.
31%, which includes all.
It should be.
All right.
Especially on 13.
It says to carry. Mr. Chairman, respectfully ask you to carry this case.
Okay, I just want to be clear, and we can certainly grant that, but the purpose of carrying it would accomplish what?
There's a decision to be made yet.
Okay, and you don't have time for that
We're just
decision.
not
Yeah,
ready
you
to
should, yeah,
give
we're
up
not
the
gonna, yeah,
second
there's no,
dwelling.
you're not gonna be forced to have to make a decision like that tonight. I just want to understand, carrying it, if it's so you could think of Plan B or Plan C perhaps? Is that
So,
what we're talking about?
can I ask what our options are? What would our options be?
Well, if we went to a vote tonight, right, and you get turned down, you'd have to come back with a completely different plan, okay?
For the cottage and the front house, or would that?
For the whole project.
We view it in its totality, right? So maybe you could get more in the front if you don't do the back house, like there'd be options that you can do. But right now, I mean, I'm not speaking for the other board members, but my sense is, seems like there's reluctance on a number of the board members, and I think it's more than two, that both the size of the front house in combination with knocking down and keeping the back house has created problems for some of the board members. And so I think, you know, any effort to try to keep the back house, I don't know that you'd swing, you know, for, you know, two of the four who seem to be opposed. I'm not sure where I stand. I don't know what group I stand with right now. But,
And Mr. Chairman, could I just say a few things?
yeah, sure.
So, and just again, on top of what you've all said, because everyone's made excellent points, and so you need a use variance, they call that use variance or a D variance, and you need some bulk C variances, but under the law, the use variance standard is quite high, it's a stringent, high legal standard, with good reason, and should be, because you're expanding what a use that's non-conforming. And as was indicated, you have some certain rights when you're lawfully pre-existing, and with the use variance standard, you sort of heard it in some of the earlier applications. There's a positive criteria and a negative criteria, and the positive criteria means that you're sort of advancing some of the purposes of the municipal land use law. Some of them are to have appropriate spaces and appropriate locations for a variety of uses, including residential uses or desirable and good visual environments. And you also have to satisfy the negative criteria, which is you have to prove to this board that your relief can be granted without causing substantial detriment to the public good. And again, and that's not unique to you, that's every use variance application or for a variety thereof. And also what the board usually considers is what represents a better overall zoning alternative for the borough of Belmar. And I do appreciate, and I would encourage you probably to take some time, because as I said the last time, it's sometimes hard to make spur-of-the-moment decisions if you haven't really thought about it. And I want you to and everyone on the board wants to at least understand what you're doing, what the implications are. And it is to give up a second dwelling unit. There are consequences of that. It would be forever, and you would knowingly and voluntarily abandon that use. And sometimes people might not want to do that. Sometimes people might want to do it. So you need to evaluate all that with your attorneys and architects and things like that. And you can ultimately apply for whatever you want. I mean, it's up to you. You've heard this board, much more than many other boards, tell you sort of what they're thinking and what they like, what they don't like, what their questions are. Sometimes in other boards, you don't hear anything, and then you take a vote, and it's all no, and you're like, wait a minute, I would have done something. So this board tries to give some feedback. Again, it's nothing counts until the vote, but I think you can come back and have the exact same proposal right at the next meeting if you don't want to make any changes, and let the vote proceed however it proceeds. If and anyone can file a lawsuit if they're aggrieved by the decision. You can make modifications to the plan if you want, or you can just, something in between. I mean, I don't know. The board, as Mr. Chairman indicated, the board votes on the application that's presented. So you've heard there's a wide-ranging opinions, and that sometimes makes it harder to deal with, but at least you've heard the opinions. So, Mr. Chairman, again, I think your caution was very, council was very well received.
All right, so you'd like to be heard at a future meeting?
I think that's our intent, but may I ask, would it be possible to get a feeling from the board if we were to reduce the size of the front house? Would that have any effect on people's opinion?
It wouldn't affect my opinion. As Mr. Kennedy reflected, I think we go down a dangerous road if any one individual is maybe oversharing opinions or how they feel. I mean, my opinion is it wouldn't affect my opinion, but again, we're not taking straw polls of the board. We don't do that.
Okay.
I think you've heard from the board members and their concerns about roof structures. I don't know that any of these board members need to defend their votes in favor or against the application. They reach an opinion, they voice it, and they're entitled to make that vote. If I agree with it or not, it does not matter.
And we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I mean, they could turn it down for reasons unspecified. And I don't think I'd want any of these board members to have to defend why they would vote a certain way and what criteria it would take them to get them to change their mind.
I wasn't asking for a defense.
I know, and I just want to maybe just make sure, because maybe we do overshare, and maybe we need to be a little more careful about getting too specific about what it would take for me to change my mind on how I feel about this application. So I wish I could give you more than that, but if you want to adjourn to a future meeting and come back with a modified proposal, speak.
Yeah, you just asked if the front house was reduced, okay, would that make a difference? What if you reverse that question? What if the front house was increased and just had the back as a garage? Would that make a difference to you? And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we really wanted the second structure for
I think the
potentially my
idea of my
mother-in-law,
mother who lived there was 86 years old, and we just felt that that was more accommodating for her, if she, for her to live with us, but, I guess that's something we're gonna have to decide, so.
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll get on the agenda for a future meeting.
Yeah, the next meeting is November 21st or December 19th, so we'd like to pick one of those.
November.
All right, so what we're going to do, as is standard, we're going to ask you, do you consent to extend the time frame within which the board has to act on the matter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And that's a very standard request. And what we're going to do, we're going to carry this to November 21st, 2024 at 6 o'clock p.m. Without the need for any further public notice, so you don't have to do the noticing again. And again, I would encourage you to speak with your architect and attorneys and about the legal standards and things like that. So, Mr. Chairman, if we could have a motion to carry this application to November 21st, 2024.
I'll make that motion. Okay.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to request for the board if we could go into executive session for a few minutes.
Sure.
Once the room clears.
So what we'll do is we'll have a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing either